What's up, people? Holy shit. Screen Actors Guild Awards, 31st annual. Oh my God. Had to catch my breath. I actually could have gone live like 15 minutes ago and I couldn't. I was kind of reeling, honestly. Hit me in the chat, okay? Let's get it over with. I know Ariana lost tonight. I know that. I don't need people showing up in the chat to tell me that, but feel free to do so if you think you need to do that. I tell you who won though. Timmy, my guy, won for a complete unknown. Let me go up here so I can share this. Oh, I'm already sharing it. So I have the results pulled up here. We can go through them and kind of talk about what happened. I honestly am a bit confused after this award show. As somebody who does Oscar predictions and follows the Oscars, I'm a little confused. I got to be honest. You know, I filmed a reaction that I'm going to put on the channel probably tomorrow for you guys to see my reaction to when they announced the awards. And on that reaction, after they gave Kieran Culkin his award and they gave Zoe her award for Emilia Perez, I was like, okay, this is going to be boring. They're going to, give out the expected winners, checking off the checklist, and it's going to be bland. And then it wasn't. It kind of took a fucking hard right turn. And to be honest, I prefer that. I got to be honest with you. I wanted Ariana Grande to win so bad, and I wanted Timothée Chalamet to win so bad. So I got 1 out of 2 there. I predicted both, and I got 1 out of 2. And those were the 2 that I was personally really, really rooting for as well. To see Timmy win was a highlight for me. I've been following that kid forever, almost 10 years now. And I just think he's one of the best doing it. And I know he's not going to get the Oscar based on what Brody's been doing and the success of The Brutalist. And Brody gave a great performance too. So it's well-deserved. Let me pull up the comments, by the way. I'll go to your comments tonight too. I'm only going to probably go for like an hour or whatever, but see what you guys have to say. Welcome, Amy. Welcome, Joey. Let's see. Amy, I agree with you. I know you've been on the channel before. I think Zoe did a good job, but I've been strong Ariana all season. So that was a bummer. I kind of thought it was a far-fetched hope based on what we've been seeing. But I will say, for us Wicked fans, for us Ariana fans, we do have next year, and I do have hope there because the second half of that musical is very juicy from a performance standpoint. So there's room for her in the future. I mean, we got to remember she's obviously young in her acting career too. Let's see. K-Ray's here. Thank you so much. I saw your tweet earlier. Man, I tell you, that got me. That got me because I predicted it, and you guys will see when I put it out. And I'm sitting here, and the way the night was going, I definitely thought it was going to be Adrian Brody. I didn't think it was going to be Brody when I made the prediction, obviously. And I thought they were going to give it to Timmy. But when I'm sitting there and it's happening, I was like, they're just going to give it to Brody, And when they said Timothée Chalamet, which they said it kind of suspensefully, it took a second for them to get his name out. And I jumped out of my chair. I just, I predicted it, but at the same time, I was so surprised by it and so happy for him, And that was why I really wanted it for Ariana too, to Amy's point earlier, because they just deserve something this award season. And I said on my most recent predictions video for this that those performances like that, and really Coleman Domingo and Sing Sing as well. Of course, not everybody can win in the same category, so somebody's going to lose. But those performances they deserve to have some kind of recognition. They deserve to be on stage being recognized for those performances. And I'm not saying Brody doesn't. I'm not saying Demi Moore doesn't or Kieran Culkin, but there's 5 major televised awards. And I just hate that it was being the same winner over and over and over again. Those seasons are kind of boring for us as Oscar followers. But man, the SAGs kind of shook it up tonight a little bit. Now, as we're going through this, I'll go through some of your comments. Voting ended last Tuesday, I think, for the Oscars, I mean. So voting was over, right? So what happened tonight on the broadcast, I mean, is not going to affect what we see next week at the Oscars. Actually, it's in a week. Can you guys believe that? But it does show us maybe the momentum for certain films. And I saw, let me go to the comments. So here we go. The Conclave Hive is alive tonight, okay? I'm sitting here thinking, and I said on my reaction video, Shay, I said right before that, when they're doing the nominee package, and Harrison Ford is reading the nominees, I said, if you are an Honora fan, you don't want Conclave to win here. That's what I said on my video. And then 10 seconds later, he announced Conclave. And I really thought it could happen. I thought it could happen for a lot of films, honestly. I thought it could be Wicked. I predicted Honora, so I thought it could be Honora. I thought it could be A Complete Unknown. They really liked that. They gave it a lot of nominations. And I thought it could be Conclave. And it was Conclave. And, it's going to be exciting at the Oscars. I don't know if you guys realize it's going to be an exciting broadcast because it's not sewn up for any one movie or performance now, except for maybe Kieran Culkin and Zoe Saldana. But otherwise, and even the below the line stuff is really exciting right now, in my opinion. I'll go through your comments here. I know the Conclave Hive is feeling good because I was thinking too afterwards before I went live that what are we looking at an Argo situation too, right? Because I'm trying to think, but because they don't have director. Edward Berger's not there, which was a big miss for that movie. And when I saw the nominations, that was always what kind of gave me pause on predicting it as a Best Picture winner because it didn't have Berger, which is a snub, frankly. But since it didn't, I'm like, how can it get there? Well, over the last few weeks, it's really become the front runner for editing, right? Really. Baker possibly, and Nora as well. But I think I would probably predict Conclave right now to win editing. So if it gets editing, and we know it's getting adapted screenplay, it's won everything but the Kids' Choice Awards for adapted screenplay. So it's going to get that, and it's going to get editing. There you go. That's what you need to be a Best Picture. Those two. Or director, but it doesn't have the director option. But if it gets those two, it could be in the Best Picture envelope, in my opinion, based on history of the Oscars. And then you look at Honora, and as we're watching the broadcast on Sunday next week, if Honora wins original screenplay, which it probably will, that's going to be my prediction based on what we've seen. And it doesn't get editing because that goes to Conclave. Conclave will have adapted. So what do we need Mikey then, right? We need Mikey, or we need director for Sean Baker, which I think is also probably my prediction right now. So what you're going to have, and I just want to tell you guys this right now, I don't know exactly what I'm going to predict yet. I'll do those by Thursday of this week on the channel. But what I'm going to tell you right now is you're going to have Conclave with editing and adapted, okay? And you're going to have Honora most likely with original screenplay and director. That's what you're going to have. And then they're going to walk out on the stage to give out Best Picture. Both of them have what they need to win Best Picture, if that happens. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be real exciting. Let me get to some of your comments here. Let's see. It was a bit like, I want to be the greatest, but I, as a fan of that kid, man, and as knowing how hard he has worked to be the greatest, that's literally what he wants to be. He was mentioning Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps. Not just movies, Viola Davis. That's what he wants to do. And I do respect that to a certain extent. I don't look at it as being pretentious, but I do understand that viewpoint as well. I love that dude, though. Like, I'm super biased, and I'll just go ahead and tell you. Even before Call Me By Your Name, but definitely since then, my daughter, her and I are really close. She's 23, and we love that guy. Like, anything he does is gold to us. So I was thrilled that he got some love tonight. What's up, Paul? Paul says Timmy will have so many Oscars in the future. I was doing this thing the other day for my video, Paul, and anybody that's a Timmy fan, and I was going through this in my head because I knew he wasn't going to win after he started missing, and Brody's just dominating, and I'm like, okay, it's over. Maybe he'll get a SAG, but it's over, and he did, which is great. But I'm thinking to myself, and I looked at the history because everybody compares him to Leo, right, DiCaprio, and in that situation, it would be 2039 before Timmy would win an Oscar, because that's how long it took between Leo's first nomination, which I think was Gilbert Grape. I think, if it wasn't, I apologize. I think it was Gilbert Grape, until his win for The Revenant. 22 years. So if it was a 22-year period from when Timmy got nominated for Call Me By Your Name, 2039 before he gets an Oscar. Now, I hope that doesn't happen. I don't think that'll happen, because the guy is fire. Almost every movie he's in is Academy nominated. This year, he's in 2 films that are nominated for Best Picture, with Dune Part 2 and A Complete Unknown. Lady Bird, Call Me By Your Name. I think I saw some stat. Tell me in the chat, but I think I saw a stat where he's been in like 7 films that were nominated for Best Picture. Little Women was Little Women for Gerwig. I think that was a nominee as well. I mean, I'm not saying it's because of him or whatever, but I'm just saying the guy has a strong start to his career. Let's see. Carrie says Ariana's going to sweep next year. I do think that in a weird way, while the stands of her are sad this year, what I think in a weird way, it could boost her, at least from an acting standpoint, because obviously she has her musical career as well, music career. But as an actress, I think it could boost her what happened this season because the eyes are on her now. And she got these nominations. She didn't have the win, but she got nominated all over the place this season for that performance. That was beautiful. It was funny. It was charming, and it was memorable. And I walked out of the theater. I remembered it, and on this tour, on the awards tour, I remembered it too. And I would have loved for her to join Timmy tonight and get that recognition because we 99.999% know that Zoe Saldana is going to be the Oscar recipient for that. I would be literally blown away if somebody like I would probably die of shock if Kieran Culkin and Zoe Saldana didn't win next week. Like it would be the most crazy shit that I've ever seen if that didn't happen. So I think that's almost a shoe-in gimme, like a lock on that. But yeah, it would have been great. Let's see what else you guys had to say here. So let's talk about this. Throw it up in the chat. Do you agree with Shay here? This one got me too. Now, I predicted Demi to win. And here's what I said when I did those predictions. I hate when I do this too because I get reactionary. That's why I'm going to wait till Thursday, by the way. My buddy Fuji was doing a stream earlier and I was going back and forth. And, he's been on this channel before. Him and I have been tight for a while. And I was watching his stream and I'm thinking, as I'm watching it, as the results are coming in, I predicted Demi to win. And when I did that, I said, it's not going to affect my Oscar predictions. I'm going to predict Demi to win because the SAG goes for a narrative. They're not going to turn down a narrative no matter if it's a comeback story in Hollywood, that person's winning the award. And I'm not downplaying her performance in The Substance. I'm a horror head. I mean, I have the proof behind me. I loved it. And the fact that The Substance got recognition from the Academy is like still one of the greatest joys of 2024 for me. So I'm not downplaying the performance. It was very worthy. I mean, the mirror scene alone would get her some recognition. So great performance. Margaret Qualley was also fantastic in it. Some people maybe say a supporting snub for her. But great performances in that film. But that narrative, there was absolutely no way, even with the support and wave that Mikey was riding, there was no way anybody could convince me that they were not going to give the SAG to Demi Moore. I knew it just based on what they do. That's what they do. So I said to myself, if that happens and Demi wins the SAG, which I was pretty confident she was going to, it's not going to affect my Oscar prediction. I still think it's Mikey. But then as it's happening, I'm like, well, shit, is it Mikey now? And I do start to question my own kind of thought process. So hit me with it in the chat. I mean, is this a lock for Demi in your mind? Or is this like Mikey still has the lead? Or is this like you just don't fucking know? Because the BAFTA win was giant for Mikey. That was like a do or die, 1 second left on the clock, heaving it from half court for her to win that. She had to win that. And she did. And the BAFTA correlation for lead performances to the Oscars, I don't have those stats in front of me. I'm a sicko, so I did a spreadsheet. But I think it was like 17 out of 20 if you count actor and actress in lead for the last decade. They matched 17 out of 20 times for who ended up winning the Oscar. Obviously, the correlation is not that strong from the SAG winner perspective, at least percentage-wise, as that is. But the haul for Demi is extremely impressive. And then you take the haul and you add it to her narrative, right? Mikey doesn't have a narrative. If anything, Mikey has a negative narrative because kind of what you guys were saying in the chat, she's going to have her chance. She's 25 years old. Let me see what you guys are saying. I don't know what to do. I honestly don't know what to do. I want to talk about a couple of the bottom of the line categories too, but I'm curious what you guys think about the Demi Moore, Mikey Madison race right now. let's see. Who's got? Let's see what Catherine's. Catherine, welcome. I love when you show up. I appreciate your support. She said, as I've said before, don't be dismissive of Conclave. It could still win the Oscar for Best Picture. However, I would prefer Nora to win on Oscar night. That's kind of where I am too. I know you probably know this, but on my predictions, basically for the last like month, if not longer, I've had Conclave at number 2 behind Nora. Definitely since the PGA DGA weekend, I was like, okay, it's Nora. We're good. We know. But I've had Conclave at number 2 forever. Like, and I've just haven't had that one thing to put it to number 1 because Edward Berger missing a director kind of fucked with my mind a little bit. And I was like, it's not a front runner because it's missing director. But it has a path now. And I told you guys the path earlier. And Catherine, I'm not sure if you heard that, but if it gets adapted screenplay and it gets editing, that's frankly, technically, that's all it needs to get Best Picture. But you're going to have Sean Baker getting his basket ready for the Best Picture also. They'll both have it. Now, listen to me clearly, okay? I've been watching the Oscars for a long time. So we say Conclave has editing, right? I think everybody probably at least 85, 90% would be confident with that. And adapted screenplay is like 110% that it's going to win that. If it has those two, if it misses one of those two, the Conclave Hive is in trouble, okay? Conversely, on the other side, if Sean Baker has original screenplay and director, which right now I'm predicting him to get both, I think Jesse Eisenberg could fuck that up for him, honestly, with a real pain. Now, it's been forever. I don't even think it's ever happened that a original screenplay winner has not had the Best Picture nomination. Since the 10, since they did the 10. I literally don't think that's ever happened. So that would be the first time that has ever happened if Jesse Eisenberg wins for a real pain. So I'm still going to pick Baker because that just seems like that would be crazy. I mean, it could happen. It's a crazy year. But if Baker wins original and he gets director, then if one of those don't happen, if Eisenberg wins, or if The Brutalist wins, Corbet and Fastfold, if they win for screenplay, Baker's in trouble. Unless Mikey wins. You gotta have those. If Conclave has editing and adapted and Anora's like underperforming on Oscars night, I like Conclave. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you right now, I like Conclave. It's not Amelia Perez, so I'm like, we win. Basically, but holy shit, and that's why I don't want to be too reactionary to this win for Conclave, because would you guys have thought under any circumstance, and be honest with me, and I'm not even saying if you like Anora, with the CCA film, DGA, PGA, WGA, 3 guilds. Now, the Screen Actors Guild didn't give it anything, right? I don't think it won anything tonight. But 3 major guilds, it was going crazy a couple weeks ago when it was winning all that shit. And then not to mention everything it got before the televised season. The Spirit Awards, which I know is, not a huge precursor or whatever, but it proves that people love it in the independent film community too. Let's see what you guys say. But Catherine, I'm not being dismissive of Conclave. Me personally, it's always been my number 2. Let's see. Yep, it's between Anora and Conclave. I think so. I think so. I always said that there was only really 4 films that had a shot, and I've been saying that since the Globes, basically. Conclave, Anora, Wicked, and The Brutalist. Those are the only 4 movies that even had a chance over like 10% to win Best Picture. I think The Brutalist is still hanging on to something, dependent upon what the international voters do in the Academy and how the wins start to kind of unpile. Because don't forget that The Brutalist is in that mix too for editing and screenplay and director. So don't forget that. The Academy could fucking blow our minds on Oscars night. Much like Catherine said a second ago about not counting out Conclave, I say the same thing about The Brutalist. I'm not going to predict it to win anything, but I don't think you could count it out. It is a grand scale epic film that was made for $10 million. That looks like it cost $100 million. They may respond really well to that, and has that international kind of vibe to it too. So it may get some of those votes also, especially if they're leaving the Amelia Perez camp. Hopefully I'm Still Here will get a lot of those, but who knows? So I wouldn't count out The Brutalist either, frankly. Now, I think it would be shocking But if The Brutalist wins editing early in the night, sit up on your couch, okay? Because that's going to prove to me that the Academy just went fucking AWOL and they voted for what they just went crazy. I don't think that's how it's going to go, but I also am not prepared to say it's not possible. And then Wicked is the same thing, because Wicked is the box office smash, at least among the group for the most part, and Dune Part 2 as well. But we know Dune Part 2 is being undervalued by the industry. I mean, I'll just tell you, they're not going to give it its due, frankly. But so in other words, Wicked, it would be the kind of general public box office representation for these nominees. And that one still has a 10% chance, maybe, because we know it's going to get some text. We know it's going to get costumes, production design. Is it going to get anything else? I don't know. I mean, sound, maybe, but Complete Unknown got upset them and Dune Part 2 in the sound with the Guild today. I think it was today or yesterday. I saw that. And I'm like, what? I like a Complete Unknown, but I was like, holy shit. I thought that was definitely going to be Wicked or Dune Part 2. So to your point, nobody's really dead yet of those four, really. I mean, there's some that are on life support, like Wicked. I think it's between Anora and Conclave, like a 55-45 right now. I probably give the slight nudge to Anora personally, just because of the guild haul that it got after the Critics' Choice Awards. Joey, you know what? I had Wicked as my number 2. I have Conclave in my 3. So I had Anora, Wicked, Conclave. I should bring those up for you guys real quick. Let me go through this and then I'll show you my predictions. Yeah, I thought Wicked was perfect recipe for that SAG ensemble. I really did. But then when I saw Anora on the stage, which is what I predicted tonight, when I saw Anora on the stage, and to that point, when I saw Conclave on the stage, and then when I saw Timmy and the girls on the stage and Edward Norton for a complete, I'm like, you know what? With the exception of Amelia Perez, but I'm also just a hater on that movie, and there was only 2 of them there. But I was looking at all those ensembles, and I was like, you know what? These are the best fucking ensembles. This is a great group of. I mean, whether you like the movies or not, you look at those actors on the stage together that went through those productions together, and you go, man, that really is a great ensemble. If that won, I get it, And I thought that with Conclave, and Isabel Rossellini forgot to use her microphone. It was cute, and A Complete Unknown. I mean, they're all hot, and just you could tell they just love being around each other and telling that story. And then when Anora was on the stage and they were kind of messing up the teleprompter with the language barrier with the Russian and stuff, that was awesome too. And it was a toss up. It really was. But to Joey's point, I did think Wicked was the biggest threat to Anora. And now it turns out that it was Conclave. And you guys are going to see my reaction video tomorrow. And I said it. God damn it. I said, if you're a fan of Anora, which I am, that's the one that I want to win among this group, since Dune 2 doesn't have a shot. I said, if you're a fan of Anora, you do not want Conclave to win this award. You want it to be Wicked, obviously Anora, maybe even A Complete Unknown. I don't even think I said the word Conclave, because I didn't think they were going to go for that. And then guess what won? Harrison Ford, that guy. Ever since he became the Red Hulk, he's just so different. I just don't know what to expect of that guy. Let's see what you guys have to say here. If Timmy got nominated for Dune Part 2, he would have won the Oscar instead of A Complete Unknown. Wow, that's a bold statement. You know what? He was, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you, because he's freaking phenomenal in it. I mean, he would have definitely had his Oscar clip, the speech he gives in the cave or whatever. That would have been his clip for sure. I mean, that's an argument to be made. Sometimes when they do these voting, I think it's because he's young. Young men, especially, not necessarily always young women, but young men especially are often biased against by the Academy. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. Of course, Adrian Brody was young when he won for The Pianist, and it does happen. But generally speaking, they're like, it's not your turn yet. Young buck, you need to kind of age up a little bit before we're going to give you anything special, But sometimes what I was going to say is they will take kind of like the body of work into account. You look at an actor like Timmy, who had Dune 2 and A Complete Unknown this year, 2 great box office successes, and both nominated for Best Picture. So you think maybe they look at that and they go, well, this guy, he must have something. He must have the juice here. Let's maybe vote for him. I don't think it's going to happen this year. But then you look at an actor like Sebastian Stan, for example, who had a great 2024. Same thing with him. So if he gets votes for The Apprentice, which I'm sure obviously he did, that's probably for his year in film. I mean, that's probably for his contributions to the community. An actor like Nicholas Hoult had a fucking trailblazing year last year. He didn't get any major nominations, but it's like that. When you just have just a great annual resume, sometimes that'll be enough to like get the vote from the Academy and from other bodies too. What's up, LA Chris? My guy is here. Are you part of the Conclave Hive too, Chris? They're showing up, man. They're out here. Joey says he likes Conclave, but if it wins Best Picture, that'll be a safe choice. You mean, because it's like PG and it's like more mainstream, more digestible. I could see that. The Burger missing director scared me with Conclave, but now that I see the path with it being, frankly, the front runner for adapted and editing, I think that's it. That's what it needs. So it's just going to come down to, this is so awesome though, guys. As an Oscar fan, I'm literally smiling so big. This is so awesome. My heart is bursting as a fan of the Oscars, because last year when I would do these streams and make these videos, I didn't have shit to talk about. I mean, we all knew Oppenheimer was going to win fucking everything. Everything. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't have, but it was not exciting or surprising. This year, there's so many different ways that different movies could win that you just don't really know what to get behind. You don't know what to expect. I don't know that I would say Conclave is a safe choice, Joey. I do think I see what if you're saying what I think you're saying, I think you're saying it's a little more like appeals to the masses a little bit more than a movie like Honora, which is obviously about a sex worker and nudity, and that kind of more of a profane narrative, which is not going to appeal to all age brackets and stuff like that. And then you have a movie like The Brutalist that also has some pretty racy stuff in it, but it's also super long, so not everybody's going to want to sit through that. And then not everybody's into musicals, so Wicked might suffer as a result of that. So I kind of think if that's what you're saying, I kind of get it. Oh, by the way, don't forget, I'm going to go through these comments here. I won't be able to hit all of them, but don't forget to let me know I don't know what to do with Mikey Madison and Demi Moore. So if I see Mikey Madison or Demi Moore in the comments, I'm going to click on those probably. What do I do? All right. And then also, what about original screenplay? That one's got me fucked up too. Is it Baker? Like, are we just saying it's Baker, or do we think Eisenberg or maybe even The Brutalist have a shot with screenplay too? I'm a little confused with that category also. And now I'm more confused. If Honora had won ensemble tonight, I would have been a little more confident in, yeah, it's screenplay, director, picture. That's it. Bam, Honora, bye. Regardless of what happens with Madison. And frankly, before tonight, and it might still stay this way, but before tonight, I had Honora's Hall as picture, director, screenplay, and Madison. 4 out of 6, which would be huge. Huge win for that movie. Now, like I said, I'm probably 55-45 in the lead actress for Madison, which is not as confident as I was. I was like 80-20 going into tonight. So I need help. Let's see. Patricia says that she is sad for Ariana and Wicked. Same here. Hopefully next year. Yep, I agree. It's just really frustrating that they just want to award people for their narrative and not so much the performance. Ari next year. Amen for that, for the last part of your comment there. I said that, I don't think I said this on the live stream. I think I said it on my reaction video that I did. Weirdly, oddly, I think the controversy from Carla, Sofia Gascon, and Emilia Perez helped Zoe. Oddly. I know that sounds weird. I just think that the community, the acting community, especially like at the SAGs, I think they wanted her to not have any of that residual, problems with that controversy. Because, and she shouldn't. It wasn't her. She didn't know about it. Like, she didn't contribute to it, whatever. So I think that it kind of helped her, honestly. And I'm not, I predicted Ariana to win tonight at the SAGs. I thought it would be her lone, televised win. I really wanted that for her, especially if it doesn't pan out next year. I really wanted her to have something for that role. I think that's a freaking role of a lifetime. It really is. And you see think of the packages they could put together, the clips and stuff. Cause I've seen pictures of her going to see Wicked when she was 13. a little girl and dreaming of like, it's just crazy to me. It's such a heartwarming, wholesome, beautiful story about community and the arts. And I'm not saying Zoe Saldana is not deserving because she is, but I also knew she's won everything and she's going to win the Oscar. So let's just give Ariana something here for that performance. But to your point, I do have great hope for next year for her. I really do. Jackie says Conclave winning after Everything Everywhere and Oppenheimer would be so disappointing, and you like Conclave. Um, are you saying because it's not your preferred winner, or well, no, you said you like Conclave. I guess maybe you have favorites in that category. I do think it. You know what? I do think, and I like Conclave too. I'll just go ahead and tell you. It's probably like my. Actually, I did these rankings, so maybe I should misquote myself. But I think I ranked it like 5 among the 10. So it's right in the middle of the pack for me. But I do really like it. I think that Conclave is probably not going to be the movie like an Oppenheimer or like Everything Everywhere that's going to be remembered for multiple years after the Oscars. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like 10 years from now, somebody, sees Conclave on Netflix or whatever. Are they going to go, oh, that was the best picture winner? I remember that year at the Oscars. Whereas with Oppenheimer, how could you fucking not remember it? I mean, it won everything under the sun, no pun intended. And then same thing with Everything Everywhere. It was just such a, and you got to remember Everything Everywhere came out in like March. I remember being a big like supporter of that movie, being an Oscar player, and I remember kind of giving up because I'm like, well, it came out too early. Like it's A24, it's a weird, multiverse movie with like dildos. I mean, it's not going to be an Oscar player. And then it won like 7 Oscars, so I do agree with you in that respect, where it's not quite as memorable, if that makes sense. It is a really, really well-made movie, a really good movie, amazing performances. Berger's doing his damn thing. I do think he got snubbed this year. I predicted Mangold to get in, but that really should have been Edward Berger in for director, especially considering they, stiffed him on All Quiet on the Western Front too. So, but I kind of get what you're saying there. Let's see. I think this is it for Fernanda Torres, unfortunately. I would like for you to elaborate on that because I haven't counted her out yet. And here's the main reason. If we're sitting here talking about Demi and Mikey, and I do think those are the two in the front. I said 55-45. That's probably where I am. But it really should probably be more like, 45-40, and then the rest is Fernanda. I can't do math. I'm sorry. Pull my calculator up on my phone here. But I'm not counting Fernanda out, and here's why. All right. I'm not going to predict her because this is me just kind of hoping what happens or what would be really cool to see. Okay. A similar scenario is that Demi and Mikey have been battling it out all season. Okay. And really, even before the televised events. But if you want to start at the Globes and you want to say that's the first niche in the timeline, and then we go up to the Oscars, obviously, which will be next weekend. So right now we're at the next to last niche in that timeline. And all the stops along the way, Mikey and Demi have been battling against each other. Well, guess who has not been in that arena? Fernanda Torres. So here's an interesting thing that I thought about yesterday when I was reading a beautiful article about the movie, actually. Here's something I thought about. The industry, and particularly the Oscar voters, had not been seeing Fernanda Torres win in that month period since the Globes. But guess what? They also have not seen her lose. Okay. What they have seen is a powerful performance from her in I'm Still Here that will absolutely shake you. That will stay. I will tell you right now, if you like movies, and not even movies, humanity, and I mean, this is a true story. I mean, it is a really powerful true story. It's a biopic, and Fernanda Torres, along with the other great performances in the film, Walter Sallis's direction and a lot of stuff. But Fernanda Torres in that film, I was absolutely captivated and blown away. Like I put her in my predictions. I saw it in like mid-November. I remember it was around my birthday, actually. I had a screener for it. And I watched it at home, like, oh, whatever. I love international movies. I love it. Let's check it out. No buzz, at least on any of the circles I follow in America. I'm sure it was a lot of buzz in Brazil and abroad. I watched it mid-November around my birthday, and about 4 or 5 days later, she was in my predictions. Again, no buzz, nobody predicting her for an Academy Award in America. I was going on the performance, and frankly, to round out the 10 that I had to come up with for lead actress. And in my head, I'm going, I haven't seen a performance that's shaken me like that this year. Why not? You know? And the season went on a little bit, and she started to get a little more traction. The movie started to get a little, reviews started to come up on Rotten Tomatoes. Brazil rose up, they're big supporters of my channel. I have a lot of Brazilian supporters. And they are passionate about that. And the Academy is seeing that performance and being affected by that performance. And they don't have to watch her lose on the circuit to Demi or Mikey or whoever. So they're not taking that loss on TV or whatever with them when they're considering her for the Oscar. I think there's something to be said for that. Now, that is a pure 1000% vibe situation. Like, we're vibing with Fernanda Torres. That's why we vote with her. So you can't predict her. It's not realistic to predict her. It's going to most likely be Mikey or Demi. I want to see your comments. But I do think, to Raphael's point, I do think that Fernanda was not involved in what happened tonight. So I don't think that was going to change her trajectory regardless. I think if she's going to win or upset or whatever you want to call it, that was going to happen organically based on the film and based on how the Academy responded to seeing the film. That's what I think. So I don't think that she's dead because of what happened. I just think that the industry may be behind like a Demi Moore narrative a little bit more, even though, Fernanda has her narrative too. Demi Moore had the best speech of the night. She's killing it. She's killing it with the speeches. She's killing it with the narrative. Mikey's given great speeches when she's had the chance to. Fernanda gave a great speech at the Globes. Zoe's, it's getting a little repetitive, honestly. I mean, I get it. It's emotional, and I can't imagine. I mean, I'd probably be a freaking mess, if I won anything, but let alone, a Screen Actor Guild Award. But yeah, I mean, they're all very, appreciative, and it really shows. The gratitude really shows. But I think Demi Moore, specifically to your point, just because of that 45 years or whatever it is, before she's finally getting some recognition. What is up, Christina? Thanks for being here. Let's see. Anybody got any Demi Moore comments? I'm really bummed about Demi Moore. She did great, but Mikey's performance is a performance of a lifetime. I agree. I hope, Tess, I hope that it's not the performance of her lifetime because she's 25. But man, what a mesmerizing, captivating, unbelievable out of the gate. Now, of course, it's not out of the gate, but you know what I mean, from like a awards notable film out of the gate. I mean, she's one of my ghost faces. I don't know if you guys can see the poster over here, Scream. I mean, that's one of my favorite horror franchises, if not my favorite, maybe next to Halloween. I mean, she's one of my ghost faces. I freaking love her. I mean, I've loved her for years. And I remember hearing Sean Baker, the director, teaming up with Mikey Madison, my ghost face, Amber. And I'm going, perfect. That is absolutely perfect. And I just knew, being a fan of both of them, that was going to be a marriage that I wanted to see on the big screen. So I think there's a lot of great stuff left in her. And I think that she is still probably who I'm going to predict to win the Oscar, honestly. I mean, literally, you could flip a coin between her and Demi Moore. But I think I'm probably still going to go with Mikey if I'm predicting Baker and Honora to win Best Picture, Director Picture. I mean, right? Because to me, it's like it would be clinically insane to give that movie Best Picture, Best Director, and possibly Screenplay too, and not give Honora an award. That would just literally, it would be really hard for me to digest, even though I love Demi Moore. It would just be weird. It would be weird. So I think I want to see what you guys have to say, but I think when you're doing that Mikey versus Demi thing, really what you have to do as a tiebreaker in your mind, or at least what I'm doing, is which one stands the best chance to win Best Picture. I mean, that's it. And I think Honora has a much better chance to win than The Substance. It might not win. Conclave might win, but where does Honora rank? Nora's probably 2 or 3 if Conclave wins. and substance is probably like, I don't know, 7 or 8 maybe. So that has to be the tiebreaker, really, because BAFTA is such a strong win historically for the Oscar. I mean, like I said, I think it's like 8 out of 10. 8 out of the last 10 years they've matched, I think, or it might even be 9. One of them is 9. The actor is 9, and the actress is 8, I think. So they don't miss, or rarely miss. So we'll see. Conclave winning tonight is awoken my chaos gremlin. I tell you, man, it's going to be exciting. That's what I was telling you, Christine. It's going to be exciting. I might, instead of drinking beer, which I brought a beer, by the way, I didn't even open it yet. Jesus, guys, I started talking to you right away. I don't even open my beer yet. Let me do that real quick. Just hang on. Don't go nowhere. Don't go. Oh, feel the sound of that. Cheers. Cheers to Conclave. Let's pray. Let us pray. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be real exciting. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a fun show. I'm going to be freaking out. I'm going to be absolutely freaking out as somebody who wants Anora to win, because it's got to get those precursors on the night, or I'm going to be in literal shambles. If it wins editing, for sure, because I think Conclave kind of is the front runner now. So if Anora wins editing, for sure, then I'm going to be like, okay, I'm good. But definitely when we get to like screenplay, I mean, because we know Adapted is going to Conclave. We know it. So it's got to win original. Jesse Eisenberg needs to chill. All right. Next year's Oscars could be between Timothy and Michael Jackson's nephew. You know who else could be a player, and that's Coleman Domingo, because Coleman Domingo plays his dad. Now, Coleman Domingo, by the way, he's not getting talked a lot about this season, and really last season too for Rustin. This guy's a freaking stellar A+ performer. We're talking about Timmy getting an Oscar. Coleman needs an Oscar too. I mean, this guy, and he's so loved in the community, but I mean, he's such a performer's performer, such an actor's actor. I mean, he is so good, man. So I don't care if it's lead or supporting or whatever it is, but I would really love for Coleman Domingo to get something in the next like 5 years, or I'm going to start losing my shit. I mean, the guy is turning in like everything he's in is Oscar worthy or Emmy worthy. If you're talking about like Euphoria, I mean, the guy's just a decorated actor that just impresses me every single time he's on screen. Christina says, thanks SAG for bringing back award season intrigue. I see what you did there, because of Conclave, the intrigue, right? I'm bored with the whole Kieran Culkin, Zoe Saldana thing. So I'm glad they kind of flipped it on its head after those 2 awards, because when I saw those 2, I was like, well, here we go. Adrian Brody, it's the same shit, and it wasn't. From that point, they went crazy, and I was glad they did that. What's up, Maria? How are you? You know what I'm saying? Yes, Timmy won. My people are showing up for me. I was afraid that I was going to get a lot of love for Timmy winning, because you guys know how much I've been championing that, or I was going to get a lot of like, we told you so for Ariana losing. I knew it was going to be one or the other, and maybe the Ariana trolls are coming up. I don't know, but I've already talked about it on the stream, but I was so happy that he won. Him and Ariana were the 2 that I was like, I knew I was just going to be. I got teary-eyed on y'all see it tomorrow, because I can't edit it out. I mean, I'm fucking basically crying when he won. I mean, I was like, and I don't know why, because I predicted and I thought it was going to happen. But then when it happened, I was like, just overcome with it, I'll be 50 this year, and I'll just tell you guys that when you follow an actor or a musician or whatever, and you follow them from like the infancy stages in their career, and you latch onto them, whether it's a band or actor or director or whatever, and you latch onto them like at the beginning of their career when they're literally nothing, and you go, man, I love that kid in that movie as that 3rd supporting role or on that TV show or whatever, and you just like follow him, and you follow his trajectory, and you admire everything he's in, and I made edits about the guy with my daughter and stuff, and like, to see it come full circle, it's just something different about it. It just really, in a weird way, like gives you like a sense of pride for them, even though I don't know the guy. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, you just become attached to them and you root for them because you were there from the beginning, and that'll happen to me with like, well, not so much anymore because I listen to dad rock, of course, but back in the day in the 90s and 2000s, I would latch on to an indie rock band or an alternative band, and then they would blow up. It's like, those were my guys, they blew up because of me, or whatever. And you have that kind of sense of pride about it. But yeah, I was really happy that he pulled it off tonight. Maria says Demi Moore. I think that's the reactionary response right now because she just won that. She had another emotional speech. But I want to be careful about that because I'm going to do my research before I do my final predictions. But if you're saying Demi Moore, you have to at least be factoring in some percentage or some chunk of percentage to the narrative piece. And I'm not saying there's not something to be said for that because there is. Yeah. Let's see. Tess says, can we talk about when the room was silent? Is that Carlos Sofia Gason's name? When they were doing the fucking intro to this ensemble nominees, and Selena and Zoe were the only two that went up there. And Selena was like, and here's Amelia Perez. And I was like, oh God, is Carla coming out? She could come out like The Rock on WWE Raw or whatever, I didn't know what was going on, but they were just throwing it to the clip. Yeah, that whole thing's weird. I feel bad about that. I mean, I really do feel bad about that because that was a huge win and a huge step forward for the trans community, for the LGBTQ community. And turns out that the advocate for that turned out to be basically a horrible person with sketchy past at best in terms of what they said online and their beliefs. And so I'm sad about that whole thing. I really am. I am the worst person to defend Amelia Perez because I hate that film. But it's a bummer. It's an absolute bummer. If you love movies, it's a bummer, even though you might not like the film, which I don't. Let's see. AJ says, since Oscar voting ended, I still believe Honora will win picture and Mikey will win actress. The Academy still has a bias. Yeah, as much as I hate that, you're right. Against horror, Substance underperformed at BAFTA. Yeah, AJ, you know me, man. I think you're right. I think I said it was 55-45, so it's really close. This voting ended Tuesday, right? So they saw the BAFTAs right before voting ended, which could be the key. And I said this when I did my Independent Spirit Awards video last night, which I thought was a great show, by the way. I also want to hear what you guys thought about the show. I thought it was okay, honestly. I like the bits that Kristen Bell did with their on-screen husbands and stuff. I thought it was cool. That could be the key. What I said on the Film Indie that I did last night was that a lot of times the SAGs and the Film Independent Awards are that same weekend, which will be right before voting ends. But because of the schedule this year getting all fucking out of whack and voting getting pushed back and all that stuff, it's the weekend after. So what happened tonight and what happened at the Film Indies last night, it doesn't matter, frankly, because voting was over. So I think you might be right. And that's why I said people need to be careful about being reactionary, because you need to pretend like the SAG Awards didn't happen. I mean, from a televised perspective, because nothing that happened on TV tonight, speeches, upsets, Timmy winning, I mean, none of that shit, Conclave winning ensemble, none of that shit played into their votes. Now, you can get a vibe from the who has the momentum in the industry. You can, use that as a guessing tool. But you're right. I think the BAFTAs was the last thing that they saw that may have affected their actual vote. So it's something to keep in mind. Maria says Timothy Chalamet. Yep. You guys know I'm happy about that. King says Conclave and Demi Moore. Let's go. Hey, at best, you got an interesting watch on Oscars night because it's going to be exciting. Let's see. Miss Clara wants to know what I thought of Timothy's speech. We talked a little bit about that in the beginning because somebody said it was pretentious. I didn't see it as pretentious, but I get that criticism. I just think that this dude is hungry. Now, should he have said it on stage in front of 500 of his peers? I don't know. Maybe in retrospect, he should have done that, but I loved it at the moment I was watching it. I mean, you'll see on my reaction video, I was fucking cheering him on. I'm like, yeah, dude, you're Daniel Day-Lewis, bro. Yes. In the moment, but looking back on it, I think that it just proves that he is doing what he loves to do. He's doing what he's always wanted to do. And it's not enough for him to just do it. He wants to be the best at it. And I think that's commendable. I do. He's not going to be phoning in any performances. I can tell you that much. And I think his speech at least told you that. And like I said, when I talked about it earlier on this stream, I think 7 Best Picture nominees he's been in, and he's what, 29 or 30 years old? I mean, the guy's picking them right. He's turning in great performances, working with great directors. Sky's the limit for him. I just hope he doesn't have to wait as long as DiCaprio did, because he obviously gets that comparison a lot. There's a real race between Demi and Mikey. We know. Ray, who's going to win? Tell me who's going to win. Oh, never mind. Never mind. You said you don't know who's going to win. I think it's Mikey. Man, that's tough. It's tough. It's exciting. It is really, really exciting. And one thing I will say, two things I'll say. The lead actress race, every year, I can't even remember. Somebody hit me with it in the chat. I'm trying to remember the last time that a lead actress winner was like a runaway winner. Frances McDormand, maybe? Or did she have competition for Nomadland that year? But before that, who was it? I can't. I mean, honestly, I can't. I feel like every year lead actress comes down to the wire. I mean, I just do. Literally, as I'm sitting here, I can't remember except for maybe Frances McDormand. So it's going to be exciting. Conclave is a bigger shocker than Demi Moore. Yeah, because I predicted Demi. I had Conclave at 3 tonight. You know what I think it is? I think that they saw Matt on the Oscar Experts video dressed like the Cardinal, and their votes went awry. That was after the voting. But man, that was a surprising win, and that really, really, for the people that are in the Anora camp, man, that was a blow. That was a big blow, honestly, because you're not the number 2 in the Best Picture race before tonight was Conclave. So what is it now? Like 1.5 now? 1.75? It's getting ever so close. I think it's still Anora on the strength of the guilds, WGA, PGA, and DGA. But then Conclave getting Ensemble is also a guild win. But that's 1 guild versus 3. And depending on the win package for Anora on Oscars night, could prove to be too strong for Conclave. Although we're not going to know. I mean, we don't know. Everything's done now. All the voting's over. All the award shows are over. We're sitting here waiting till next Sunday. And I want it to be like this. I really do. Even though I want to know that Anora is going to win, I would much rather see Anora win and kind of still have that element of surprise, mystery around it, rather than an Oppenheimer situation where it's like obvious. And then when it happens, you go, oh, okay, cool. That's what happened. So there's still a chance for Conclave. And like I said earlier, there's a bit of an avenue for The Brutalist. Really, I mean, it's going to depend on what it wins on Oscar night and if it wins anything that it needs to win. But what if The Brutalist shocks us in editing? What if it wins Best Editing? Everybody's going to shit their pants. Probably me too. And I'll be on camera, so I hope not. But, I mean, it's possible. It is possible. So let's see. What's up, Jimmy Ma? My guy's here. Nate says, Matt said that if Wicked for Good is amazing, then Academy voters are going to go crazy for it. So don't lose hope, Wicked fans. Yeah. I think and I echo what Matt says there. I think I said it on my Film Independent video, maybe, or one of my recent videos. I've been doing so many award season videos lately. But I said on that video that if John M. Chu sticks the landing with that movie, we know it's going to be shorter, right? Or do we? I don't think it's going to be 3 hours this time. John M. Chu, let's figure that out. Speaking of editing, let's figure that out. But I think it's going to be shorter. It's going to have some original stuff in it that he's going to incorporate that's going to be a surprise to even fans of the musical, which could be a risky thing when you get fans of, diehard fans of the musical or whatever. I'm okay with it. Interjecting a little bit of originality and getting a new song from Ariana. So I could probably already tell you it's my prediction for original song next year if her and Cynthia are doing an original tune together. R.I.P. Diane Warren if she's nominated again. But yeah, I agree with Matt. I think that, and I was looking at sequels or actresses or actors being nominated for the same role, and it does happen. Sylvester Stallone for Rocky was one. Who else was? There was like 3 or 4 examples where they were nominated for it before, and then they played the same role in sequels or spinoffs, and they got nominated again. Kate Blanchett, I think, was another one. I think for Queen Elizabeth. So it happens. It's not often, but it does happen. So I'm hopeful for that when it comes to Ariana and honestly Cynthia too, if they turn in great performances. Demi is winning the Oscar. BTW. Allie says, she could, but I also wonder, are you being reactionary? That's what I'm trying to be careful with, because honestly, I thought that too when she was giving her speech on the stage. That's what I thought. Like, there's your fucking Oscar winner right there. She's gonna give the exact same speech next week, and I'm gonna be in tears watching it. It's gonna be great. But then voting was over almost a week ago. So I don't want to be reactionary. I don't want to be recency bias. I had Mikey in the lead before tonight, and I don't think there's any reason for me to take her out of the lead since voting was over before this happened. But to your point, she absolutely could win. I mean, I'm not even counting Torres out either. You have 3 women on Oscar night that there would be an element of surprise for me, no matter which one was called, but I would still be thrilled. Honestly, no matter who it was. I mean, I win. I loved all 3 of them. So, let's see. I saw that video. I think Wicked's going to sweep next year. You know what? If it because it's underperforming this year, right? First of all, so that it'll be like a collective thing, right? Like, oh, we failed it last year, and Wicked for Good was so awesome, so much better than part 1. We got to, rain down on it here. So it's possible. I mean, like I said, I'm already thinking about an original song. I mean, out of the gate, you know what I mean? And then obviously it was in contention and it's probably going to win production design and costumes this year. That's going to be my prediction. So you would think it's going to have very similar, if not better, in that department for the sequel. So yeah, Mariana says she's very happy for Conclave. Another Conclave hive has arrived. I'm happy for you guys too. I really am. I'm just joking. I had it at my number 2. I prefer Honora, but I mean, it's not like I'm going to be pissed if Conclave wins. There's a path for both of them, and really for the Brutalist too. There's a path for those 3 films on Oscars night to slither their way to the stage for the Best Picture award. And unless the Academy does some kind of weird Critics' Choice Award shit, where it's like they hate a movie and then all of a sudden they love it. That was the craziest award show that I've ever been involved with the predictions in the last like 10 years. That shit was all over the place. So unless they do something like that, you're going to be able to kind of tell the story on the night of the Oscars. And you'll kind of be able to see where the tides are kind of going. And I think that editing award, which will be given out earlier than the others, that will be a key stepping stone to what we're in for the night. Like I said, unless it's something fucking crazy. But I'm right now, I'm probably going to predict Conclave for editing. I probably am. But I will tell you that regardless of what I'm going to predict or what the majority of people are going to predict, Baker for Honora, Conclave, and The Brutalist all have a chance at editing. They all do. Any one of those 3 could win Best Editing. I'm predicting Conclave, most likely. But any one of those 3 could win it. So that's going to be the first major big Best Picture kind of caveat award. So whichever one of those 3 movies wins that to kind of start the night, not start the night, but at first 30, 45 minutes, they'll give that away. You go, okay. XYZ won editing. Holy shit. Here we go. And then you're just, kind of along for the ride, and you'll see what story is told. EK, are we being reactionary? I'm seeing a lot of locks for Demi. I got no problem with that. I mean, you guys know I love horror, and it's my favorite genre of film. And the fact that she's even in the conversation, the fact that the substance is there, and Coralie and screenplay and all that shit, it's amazing. One thing I will say, and nobody's mentioned it yet, but if the makeup win goes to the substance, which it probably will, and frankly it should, that also helps Demi. But like I said a minute ago, when someone made the comment about Demi winning the Oscar, I think it was Allie, I don't disagree that. I mean, that's absolutely possible. Totally. If that's your prediction, please, you're not way off doing that. I mean, it could absolutely happen. But I don't want to say that because of what happened tonight, because voting was over. So I have to like take my mind back and be like, what did I say yesterday? Or what was I saying last Tuesday when voting ended? And actually, I did say last Tuesday when voting ended, when I did my power rankings, that was Mikey Madison. So I just don't know that I should really change that, because I was basing it on nothing that had to do with the SAGs. Well, except that I did think Nora might get ensemble. So I take that back, because that did hurt them. Did they win anything? I don't think Nora won anything tonight. So that did hurt them. They definitely didn't want to blank tonight. But I don't know. I don't know. So far, everybody's saying Demi. Nobody's giving me Mikey. Does anybody think Mikey still got it? Demi Moore deserves it. I don't disagree with that, Maria, for sure. I mean, especially if you're going on narrative. If you're going on performance, I'm still not going to disagree with you, because it's, transformative, definitely a transformative, especially in the last act. But yeah, I mean, it's a performance that is almost like a bottling up of her career, and I mean her personal career. And Elizabeth Sparkle in that movie is unironically a kind of mirror replica of Demi Moore, and I love that about the movie. I don't know if you guys remember an Aronofsky film called The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, probably about 10, 12 years ago. And he was in the running for actor that year as well, in a very similar narrative, actually, because he had been absent from Hollywood for a long time. But he was playing this beat down, run down, down on his luck, broke, estranged father from his kid. And it was the later part of his wrestling career. And that character mirrored Mickey Rourke's life in a lot of ways. And I think that we have something similar here from a narrative standpoint with Demi Moore. And that's why it's so special, because it's truly like a life imitating art type situation. And you would think those actors that do this for a living would really be invested in what they're doing, because of that personal connection they have to the performance of the character. So I don't disagree with you at all. I think she absolutely deserves it. That's the problem, though, is that at least from my perspective and in my opinion, 3 of them deserve it. I mean, really. I mean, if there could be a 3-way tie between her, Madison, and Fernanda Torres, you know, party at my house, everybody come over. I mean, that'll be the greatest shit in the world, but of course that's not going to happen. But I don't disagree with you. I mean, I win no matter who wins lead actress. I mean, unless it's Carla. Hang tight. Not because of anything. I'm just not an Amelia Perez fan. But otherwise, I would be happy. There we go. Who is this? Juliana Paul. Finally. Juliana saved me, guys. So she says Mikey's still winning that Oscar. I don't know why we do this thing when we predict the Academy Awards, which I've been doing for a long time. I've only been doing it on YouTube for a few years, but I've been doing this since the 90s. And we do this thing where we react to what just happened, or we react to a speech that we were affected by, which a lot of times the Academy voters do too, in fairness. But it's such a unique situation this year with this race because of the voting window, and it's out of sync with how it normally is. Now, to some of my peeps over in the chat, Maria, Allie, and a lot of others that are in the Demi camp, which, like I said, if you're predicting that, I absolutely see where you're going. You're not going to get a no from me on it. If everything that we saw tonight and everything that we've seen on the awards circuit so far happened while voting was open, 1,000%, even with the BAFTA, 1,000% Demi Moore wins. Absolutely. But like I said earlier, when you're thinking about this, when you go to bed tonight, pretend like the SAGs didn't happen. Pretend like that broadcast didn't air. Okay. Who wins? What do you vote for at that point? Because I had Mikey in the lead when I did my power rankings on Tuesday, which is when voting ended. The SAGs just happened. So voting was over. Why would I change my prediction based on what happened tonight? Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't change my prediction, because sometimes I do that up until the 0 hour. But I don't think anything that happened tonight should seep into my mind to make me do that, if that makes sense. I want to hear what you guys say about that. But that's the only thing, is that I want to avoid being reactionary to my prediction, essentially, because I thought it was Madison after she won the BAFTA, along with all the love that she'd been getting for Nora, because she was the early front runner, the Palme d'Or. I mean, what was that, in May, I think? So I mean, literally since May, everybody that has anything to do with awards punditry has been like Mikey Madison. And it changed in a literal split second at the Golden Globes when Demi Moore won that and gave the speech that she gave. Those two things combined and introducing that narrative to the world and to us is what changed the race. It really did. And I'm not downplaying Demi's performance, because I've already said that I think it's stellar. Probably the best of her career. I mean, I really, really liked her in, G.I. Jane and A Few Good Men. I mean, she's a great actress. But this is probably the performance of her career. And because of that personal connection to her own story and her own, career trajectory that Elizabeth Sparkle kind of has into the substance. So I would love to hear Juliana or anybody else that's in the Mikey camp or in the Demi camp, frankly, why that's your thought process. Or even more so, like, if you're saying Demi, were you saying Demi a week ago? That's kind of where that's why I'm just trying to be careful about that. James is doing the ever. I mean, that's basically how I feel too, bro. That's probably the most truthful answer I've gotten, because I don't fucking know either. Let's see. Christina says, I would have gone with Mikey all the way if Honora had gotten ensemble. Yeah, exactly. 100%. Or if Conclave, well, that'd be more for picture, but yeah, yeah, that would have shown that guild, that fourth guild, right? The Screen Actors Guild. That would have shown that they also had some support behind Honora. But now, not only ensemble, but it won nothing. I mean, we didn't really think Borisov had a chance there. It would have been really fucking cool, but we didn't think it had a chance. Mikey did have a chance, but I did predict Demi there because of the narrative. Yeah, it makes it. I said 55-45. You're saying 50-50. That's exciting, though, right? I mean, it really is exciting, especially since I support both performances. I think they're both fucking deserving. So that makes it even more special. Man, my predictions video is going to be, I didn't think it was going to be this hard. I got to be honest. I thought I might struggle with some of the below the line categories like screenplay, but I thought I was kind of locked in on Mikey. I did. But now, frankly, I'm just confused. I'll be honest. I'm this right here. That's what I am. Let's see. Jimmy Moss says, if Mikey won, then it's Mikey's, but now we really don't know. Yep, I agree. What's that say? MSB says Demi got a standing ovation from everyone. I think that says a lot about how the Oscars going to go. Yeah, you're not wrong. That speaks to the narrative too. And didn't Mikey stand up for her as well? I think Mikey did too. Yeah, and they should. I mean, they should. She's devoted her life to the game. Hollywood. Listen, it's a great narrative. Performance, I prefer Mikey. I love them both. I love Fernanda Torres equally as well. Man, I tell you, it is going to be a nail biter. Let's see. Yeah, I know. It's tough. Carrie says the Academy has a bias against younger actresses. I think the last best actress from the 90s to win was Brie Larson. Jennifer Lawrence, right? She was young. Brie Larson was also young. I feel like there's been like 3 or 4, but now I can't think of them, of course. But young people in general have to kind of pay their dues, so to speak, especially when it comes to Oscars, that's what I hate about this whole thing. Cause really what we're arguing here, or not arguing, but contemplating, is Demi Moore versus Mikey, which, is a lady that's been doing it forever, that's in her 60s, and a young starlet that's just starting out, that's 25. And that's kind of what the conversation is about, versus the portrayal of Elizabeth and Annie and those performances in that project. And, I think in a simpler time, no, simpler is the right word, but in a less social media driven society, pre 80s, 90s, it was a lot more about the performance back then, and it was a lot less about the narratives. And obviously we would have never seen any controversial tweets back in the 80s, and that kind of stuff. So it's just and, I have divorced myself from that idea, because I can remember a time in the 90s when I used to watch the Academy Awards with my dad, and we used to follow award season, which I don't even know if you call it that. Back in the 90s, we used to follow it in the newspaper. He would take me to see movies that would end up being Oscar players. I can remember the year that Unforgiven from Clint Eastwood was a big Oscar player. I can remember literally following that with my dad every Sunday with the paper, with the entertainment section in our local paper, and that's how we knew what was happening, who was in the lead. I mean, and now it's like you have people like me, every third YouTube channel you click on and every website you go to, and it's like, it's just out there, but it's like, it's different now. It's not a performance based award anymore. It's really not. I mean, frankly, it's not. I think that's a bummer, but I've also divorced myself from that reality, because, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, the internet's not going anywhere. People's opinions and social media aren't going anywhere. And, narratives are important. I just, an award like the Screen Actors Guild Award, for example, for the SAG Award, always, not always, but very, very, very often reward narrative. That type of award, it's your peers giving that to you. It's other actors giving an award to an actor. That, I'm kind of like, yeah, the narrative should play into that. Obviously, they voted for Demi Moore because they've known her for 50 years. She's probably worked with, 60 or 70% of the people in that room, and she's never won anything until this season, which is like literally unfathomable. I mean, she's given so many performances. Ghost, A Few Good Men. I mean, I mentioned a few of them. I mean, she's just like, just a member of the Brat Pack. I mean, just such an iconic Hollywood character too. And yeah, of course they awarded that. And then I look at something like the Oscars, and I think back to when I followed it with my dad in the 90s, and it was like, that performance was awesome. Did you see what he did in that scene? Did you see how well those two actors worked together? That was the conversation. And that's been lost. I mean, I don't know if you guys care as much as I do, but I just feel like it's kind of gotten away from being a acting craft award. And there's so many other things that go into it now. But that's the reality. And that's why, to K-Ray's point about the youth, that's another thing that, it's just like, shouldn't be part of the equation. I mean, if a 12-year-old gives the most powerful lead performance in a film, then that's what happened. You know what I mean? I mean, and I know it's subjective or whatever, but like, some things you can look at and you can go, man, like, like Nickel Boys is a great example. So for me, because Nickel Boys got nominated for Best Picture. I like Nickel Boys, but I wasn't like over the moon for it. But one thing I'll tell you with 100% certainty, and I know this is also subjective, so I'm putting that little asterisk on it. The cinematography in that movie should be a damn runaway for cinematography this year. My daughter is a cinematographer and an editor, and I know that world. That should be a player in cinematography. 100%. Whether you like the movie or not, if you look at the frames in that film and the camera work in that film, it's unbelievable to me that it's not being recognized by the Academy. And that kind of stuff, if it's the best, it's the best. And we've just kind of gotten away from that, in my opinion. Mascot Bear, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for being here. Demi will win if the votes are going the Brendan Fraser way. This is a very similar path, right? It's a very similar path because Austin Butler got the BAFTA, right? And then, right, I think. And then the SAGs awarded Brendan Fraser, of course, for the comeback narrative. And then he ended up winning the Oscar. And I think, did Fraser get the Globe that year? I can't remember. I'm so sorry. I think Fraser may have gotten the Globe that year too. So it's a very similar path to Demi Moore, honestly. You're not wrong. I don't know. I mean, I literally don't know. If you guys follow me, I'm telling you that if I was writing them down right now, my prediction would be Mikey Madison. That'd be it. because I'm pretending like I didn't see that tonight. I'm trying to. It's very hard to do, but I'm trying to. That is important, EK. She got a standing O. Yeah, they love the narrative that she's living out right now, and so do I, frankly. And that's going to be a big hurdle for Mikey Madison because the only narrative that Mikey Madison has right now is being the Margaret Qualley version in the substance in real life for the Oscars. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but like the only narrative that might be in people's mind is like, oh, the young, beautiful version is going to come in and take the Oscar away from the elder Demi Moore. And the next thing you know, we're living in the substance. There's like a sick irony to that in a way. If you're on Demi's side, uh, and that's just a funny thing to me that it's playing out that way. And again, I don't want to. I try not to put that narrative in my head when I'm thinking about it because both performances are so good and Torres. But how much is that narrative going to play into the Academy votes? I mean, I just don't know. I don't know. I will say that the 8 out of 10 in the last decade matching with the BAFTAs is a big one for me for some reason. Like I can't get off that. I don't know if I still have that spreadsheet. I should pull it up for you guys and show you, but let me see. Let me go through some comments here. I don't know if that was a that was funny, Jimmy. Let's see. Thank you so much, Maria. You're the best. I don't know if you know this. That's like only my second super chat in the history of my channel. I love you. I know you always come to support me. You didn't have to do that, but thank you so much. Now it's a matter of can I read it because they put it on like this lime green thing. How do you see Fernanda now and Conclave? Maria wants to know, and thank you so much for that. I can't remember. I don't know if you were here earlier when I talked about this a little bit, but Conclave's okay. Let's start with Conclave. That's the easier one. Conclave's easier to get to Best Picture if that's what you're asking, because all it really needs to be successful to win Best Picture and to show that support broadly from the Academy is, and I'm talking about what's likely for them, is editing and adapted screenplay. It is most likely the number one in both of those categories right now. At a minimum, it might be number 2 in editing if you think Sean Baker has the edge. We don't have the Ace Eddie Awards for editing until after the Oscars. Now, if the Ace Eddies had been given out on schedule and we knew who won that guild for editing, that's who's winning the Oscar. But we don't know that yet. And neither did the Academy voters. So we have to go on what we have, which is frankly nothing. So, with the exception of BAFTA, which went to Conclave, if I'm remembering that correctly, I think it did. So, Conclave's going to have editing most likely and adapted screenplay. That's all it needs to win Best Picture. It doesn't need anything else. Okay. Don't forget, it also is a top contender for score too, for original score, which is also a huge award. And I mean, it's obviously loved. It got multiple nominations. Edward Berger missed, which is I still don't believe that. So I think that it has a path. Let's put it that way. Now, Fernanda Torres, I'll shift to that part because this might break my heart a little bit. I don't know how she can win with let me put it this way. The only way that I think she could win Best Actress, first of all, it has to win international on the night. I'm going to predict it to win international, although some people might think that's a foolish prediction because on paper, it really should be Amelia Perez winning that. I'm going to choose to go on vibes and go with the movie that I obviously love 1,000 times more, but also the vibes and the kind of word of mouth of that film and the controversy having a negative effect on it with international voters. Now, if none of that happens, then it's probably going to be Amelia Perez. But I'm going to predict I'm Still Here. Now, if I'm Still Here does not win international, it's not going to win. And probably neither is Torres. If it gets international on the night, Torres is still alive. Okay. However, the only way, even with the international win, that she can do a major, major upset, and it would be a shocking upset for her to win, is the Demi Moore, Mikey Madison votes would have to essentially, they're going to have to lose their votes and they're going to have to go to Fernanda. So who's going to take their votes away from one of the two of them and not give it to the other. Do you see what I'm saying? So if they were kind of battling with, do I vote for Mikey or do I vote for Demi? And then they saw the BAFTAs and they're like, oh, I'm going to vote for Mikey. Or they saw it and they're like, I didn't like Mikey's speech. I'm going to vote for Demi. But I think those two women, based on what we've seen, are getting the bulk of the votes. But the key to that is we don't know what Fernanda would get in the voting because she hasn't been there, right? So she hasn't had a chance to compete in any of these award shows. So it's kind of hard to really compare her with the two of them. So I'm not giving you an answer for your contribution here, but I will tell you that my truthful answer is that based on what I know and my knowledge of the Academy Awards the last 20 years or whatever, it would be an absolute heart attack inducing shock if she won lead actress. I just don't think it's looking good for her based on the love that the other two frontrunners are getting, especially the narrative that Demi Moore has, because Torres has a great narrative too with her mother, Fernanda Montenegro, and wanting to kind of avenge that loss from, I think it was 99 or 2000 when she lost to Shakespeare in Love, which I followed that award season too. And I was like, what? I mean, Central Station was brilliant. So she has a narrative too, but I feel like it's obviously being overshadowed right now by what's going on with Demi Moore because Fernanda's not on the circuit. She hasn't had the opportunity to be in front of the camera and be in front of voters. So to answer your question, I think Conclave has a pretty believable path to Best Picture if it gets editing and adapted. I think Fernanda is still alive on the night if it wins international. She still has gas in the tank as long as I'm Still Here gets international. And then we just kind of have to wait and see. She could win. It could be one of the biggest, most shocking upsets in Oscars history if she wins. But I'm not saying it's impossible. It doesn't seem likely right now. That's what I'll say. I tell you right now, as much as I love Madison and as much as I love The Substance, that would honestly make me the happiest if Fernanda Torres won that. People would be talking about that literally for years. Like it would be the most amazing thing for her to literally come out of nowhere, out of the shadows after not having been on the circuit for 2 months and win the Academy Award. Like I would fall out of my I don't even know where I would go. I would leave my house and you'd probably never see me again. That's how amazing it would be. But I do think it's a Hail Mary hard thing to kind of go for right now. I'm going to be wrapping up the stream soon. I just want to go through. Guys, you guys are great. Let me start. I'm going to go down to the most recent here. Oh my God. I'm sorry, guys. You guys had so many comments. This little ass laptop screen. I'm trying to see all these comments. So I'm going to start down the most recent, work my way up here. So let's see. Let me get to a few of these. You know what? I agree with that, Drew. I think that was a freaking awesome score, but they didn't do challengers. So not giving challengers score was tough. Let's see what else we got here. King says The Substance should have been nominated for editing and sound. Yeah, me and Fuji were actually talking about that on our most. I don't want to spoil it, but we have another version of our Oscar swaps coming up, and I think we actually made those swaps. One of the two of us did. Yeah, I mean that's why I said don't be reactionary, right, Corey? Like, especially since voting was closed. Now, like I said earlier, I could see switching your vote if the narrative affected you after seeing those speeches and you're like, man, I didn't know she had never won anything or whatever. And, man, I really loved her in, A Few Good Men or whatever. And, you followed her career and you're just kind of surprised that she hasn't been recognized for it. Then maybe you go, well, we'll get Mikey next time. And you switch to Demi. But in this case, I mean, voting's over. So whatever she said tonight doesn't matter, frankly. Let's see. Carrie says she's choosing I'm Still Here over Amelia Perez too. Me too. Yeah. I mean, I may get that prediction wrong. I mean, on paper, Amelia Perez wins international, right? I mean, because now a lot of that wins that it had with CCA and other stuff, like a lot of that BAFTA was. Well, BAFTA, the controversy was still going on, right, before voting ended. But it's an international body. They might not care as much about the, gossip or whatever in America. So we just haven't seen yet, which is so weird, right? I guess maybe with the SAGs we saw, because the SAGs, well, they gave Zoe the award, but they didn't give it anything else. But we just haven't seen yet, outside of Zoe Saldana, what's going to suffer from the controversy. The Academy is going to be the one to tell us that. So we'll know. I mean, if it starts winning, right now I've got it winning original song and Zoe, and that's it. That's it. If it gets a third award, I'm going to be nervous, because it's nominated for fucking everything. So it could possibly win something. I mean, the law of averages are pretty high. But yeah, that's same thing for me. Same thing there as well. Burger snub is insane. I don't get it. Let's see. Did anyone else just notice that none of the films won more than one SAG? Huh? Is that right? Let's see. A Real Pain, Amelia Perez, A Complete Unknown, The Substance, Conclave. Wow. And you know what's funny about that too is that when I did my predictions, I predicted that way, where like all the major awards I predicted were from a different film, and then I was like, "Oh shit, I probably shouldn't have done that." But then that's what ended up happening. I predicted different ones in different places though, because I had Anora for ensemble in my predictions, and I had Ariana for Wicked for supporting. Did Wicked win anything tonight? I don't think it did, right? No, I don't think Wicked won anything tonight. Neither did Anora. Yikes. So that looks good for Conclave. Let's just put it that way. Let's see. Maria says Jane Fonda is older than 80 and looks amazing. No substance. That was good. That was her montage was emotional. I mean, Life Achievement Award indeed. That was an emotional just that just gets me every time, you know. Their whole life has been devoted to entertaining us basically. And that just gets me every time. And it's always a really beautiful thing. The only thing that SAG did is indicate where the actors may be leaning. Yeah. Man, you guys are going to try to talk me into Demi Moore tonight, aren't you? I don't know. It's going to be interesting when I do. It's going to be interesting. Emma also won the Golden Globe and Critics. You talking about Emma Stone? Yes, she won BAFTA too, though, right? I think. I think that was a very similar situation, with minus the narrative, though. But I think Lily Gladstone. Did Lily Gladstone get BAFTA? I can't remember. Tell me in the chat. I can't remember if Lily Gladstone got BAFTA that year. But I was going to say it was a similar situation because Lily Gladstone got SAG right before the Oscar voting ended. So everybody said, because it was the awards were like on Sunday that year, and voting ended like the following Tuesday. So everybody was like, "Oh my God, Lily Gladstone, the narrative for the first Indigenous person, which was amazing." And so she had the narrative. Emma Stone really didn't. Plus, Emma Stone was a previous Oscar winner. Plus, Emma Stone is pretty young technically in her career still. And so everybody's like, "Well, Lily Gladstone's probably going to take this now." The actors loved it. And then, of course, Emma Stone still ended up winning for Poor Things. So it's a similar kind of trajectory that you could compare there. Fonda, Bates, Gene Smart are legends. I agree. I was bummed that. Oh, okay, he did miss the Globe. So that was Butler too. Then it was musical or comedy though, right? So Butler was probably in a separate category from Fraser. Why can't I remember who won the Globe that year? Hit me with it, Drew. I don't know why I can't remember that. I don't want to take up y'all's time by Googling it, but God, my memory is horrible. Let's see. Brian says, I actually see a bit more of an advantage for Mikey over Demi. Here we go. Lily also won the SAG, but Emma won the BAFTA. But the most important thing is that Mikey is in the winning film, meaning Anora, and she is Anora. That was what I said the tiebreaker for me was going to be. Because somebody said in the chat earlier it's like 50-50, which really, frankly, it is. So what's your tiebreaker? And I agree with I'm sorry. Jesus, I got to put my glasses on again. Let's see. Brian. So that's my tiebreaker too. Brian is like the best picture. Now, if it wins best picture, absolutely. But even if it doesn't win best picture, and let's say Conclave does, what has the most likelihood to win best picture? And obviously that's Anora with all the guild wins. Whereas The Substance, I mean, it has the screenplay win for Coralie at Critics' Choice, but that's not going to carry over to an Academy voting mentality. I thought it was a great win, but that's not going to be a predictor that you can really factor in for Best Picture. So to your point, that's going to be the tiebreaker for me. Anora is going to be the stronger film overall. The substance is going to get makeup and maybe Demi Moore. But what else? Am I forgetting something? I don't know how many get nominated for, 3 or 4. That's probably it, right? So it might just be a lone makeup win if Mikey ends up winning, which would also be, I don't know if you guys realize, that would also be a trend breaker, because a lot of times the makeup win will go along with the lead performance if the makeup was used to transform that person in that role, which obviously it does in the substance. But to your point, Bray, and I agree with you. I think that's probably my tiebreaker. Thank you, Joey. I agree. It's award season, man. We all support each other and we all freak out, and you know, yeah, it's wild, man. It's wild. This is a great year to be a Oscars fan. It really is a great year to be a fan, because I mean, I know a lot of you guys probably know, but it's not always this exciting. I mean, I'm sitting here talking about 3 movies, 3 lead performances that I know what I'm going to predict, but at the same time, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, imagine if a meteorologist was like, I'm going to predict this, but I have no fucking idea if it's going to pan out. So sleep tight. That's kind of where we're at. I mean, I think the supporting performances are engraved on the Oscars already for Culkin and for Saldana. Honestly, those wouldn't be my picks, but I think those are definitive shoe-ins. I think you have a shoe-in for original song with El Mal. I think you probably have a shoe-in for animated for Wild Robot. Production design and costumes are probably shoe-ins for Wicked. There's maybe 10 awards that you could like put a green check next to and feel pretty good about, but that's out of 23. So there's a lot of races that are still kind of like, what's going to happen? And that's exciting. I mean, that's really exciting. You know, even a year like last year with Oppenheimer, you knew a lot of that stuff. There were no major surprises in that race. I mean, even the Lily Gladstone Emma Stone thing was exciting, but I picked Emma Stone because, kind of like what we're saying now, Emma Stone was the leader. So I didn't see, even though in that 2-person race, Lily would have been my vote, I didn't see a reason why the Academy would shift their allegiance from what I suspected was Emma Stone at the time. And that's what ended up happening. So even that was not as shocking as it, could have been if it had been Lily. So it was a much more predictable season last year. And I'm glad that we have what we have this year. And I'm glad that we're being saved by, and if there's any Amelia Perez fans here, I'm sorry, but I'm glad we're being saved by the, record breaking year that could have been for that film, because that would have been a GD nightmare for me, because it's so funny that film got nominated for so many awards, because it's literally one of the worst movies I saw last year. Like, I hated it. And I'm sorry if you like it, and it's okay if you do. I have personal friends of mine that have been like, this is why I liked it, and blah, blah, blah. And that's great. But aside from a couple saving graces like Saldana and a couple songs, I mean, I just didn't like the movie. So you never like it when a movie that you hate is getting lauded by everybody around you, and it was just like, oh God. Let's see. Older actresses have life experiences, wisdom, lots of baggage. And yeah, you mentioned Jane Fonda. Yep. Let's see. What are you talking about here? Yeah, because that might be a good indicator there. I'll come back to that one because I got to go back up a little bit in the comments here. Yeah, Corey. I think me and Corey are similar mentality in our predictions, because, again, if I never saw this broadcast, would I be changing my vote to Demi Moore? And the answer is no, because of the strength of Anora, and because Mikey was my leader coming off the BAFTA win, and the BAFTA matches up with lead actress all the fucking time, like literally constantly in the last like 20 years. Should I bring up a spreadsheet and show you guys? Let me see if I can find it. So I made this spreadsheet. I don't know if you guys saw it when I did it on my my most recent predictions video. Let me see if I can. I didn't even go through the damn SAG page. Oh well. Sorry guys. All right, give me a second. Let me see if I can pull up this spreadsheet that I made for the last 20 years. And then those of you that are like Demi Moore, Demi Moore, Demi Moore, that's cool. But I want to kind of show you what I'm talking about here. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Let me go down here and share this. All right, let me fix this now. Present, share, share. Okay. I have to look at it over here, but this is what I'm talking about. So this is the last 20 years, essentially. And this is for lead actress. The BAFTA wins in that first column. Green obviously means they won it. Red means they didn't. SAG. And then if their film was nominated for Best Picture. That's what that third row is. So you can see the correlation. And if they went on to win the Oscar that year, obviously if it's in green. So 15 out of 20 times for lead actress, BAFTA matched up. 14 out of 20 for SAG. So it's pretty close, honestly. And then you have a couple of those that was the same person, where they won both. So let's see. So who won BAFTA but did not win SAG? So that would have been Marion Cotillard, who did win the Oscar, I think. Kate Winslet for The Reader won BAFTA but not SAG. Let's see, who else? Meryl Streep for The Iron Lady won BAFTA only, and then Olivia Colman, which is what you mentioned, right? Or who mentioned that? Let me go back to that comment. Maybe that's what you were talking about. Let's see. Who was that? Crap. Here we go. It was Drew. The recent upsets like Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman. You're talking about with the narrative because of Chadwick Boseman, right? You're talking about the narrative, probably. Is that what you're talking about? That was shocking, by the way. They redid the whole damn broadcast so that Chadwick Boseman could get that final award, and then it was Anthony Hopkins, and then he wasn't even there, which was, the whole thing was like a debacle that whole year. That was a COVID year. I remember that award show. So anyway, these are some examples that I did when I was doing my power rankings last week. And now that Demi Moore, and I can actually update this sheet now. So now that Demi Moore has the SAG, you see what we're dealing with there now. So now we're dealing with a situation where Mikey has BAFTA, Demi has the SAG. So this will be a green check mark. And they both have the Best Picture nomination. But this is probably, unless there's a conclave spoiler, this is probably your Best Picture winner, though. And if a movie wins Best Picture, it's winning other stuff. I mean, I don't even think, has it ever happened that a movie's just won? But I think it happened once in the 40s or something like that. I can't even remember what movie it was, but I don't think any movie since like the 40s has just won Best Picture, a solo award. So it's going to win other stuff. And to that point, the more it wins, the more likely Mikey is to win, especially since she is the movie. I mean, she is the character, the titular character. So I thought that spreadsheet was kind of cool. And it kind of helped me when I was doing my power rankings because I didn't expect it to line up as much, to be honest. But when you're looking at just the BAFTA and then going on to win the Oscar without the SAG, there's a higher success rate than if you just won the SAG. Now, of course, Demi has early precursors too, like the Globes. But I don't know. The Globes are weird, man. Like, I don't know what to do with those. Like, I'm talking about in my predictions, like Oscar season predictions. Like, I don't know. People say they don't matter. Then people are like, they matter. And then you have like the speech that Demi Moore gave at the Globes, which was literally a race shifting speech. I mean, it literally changed everything the moment that she gave that speech. Even I was like, holy shit, Demi Moore's taken over, and I was with Mikey since May. So I don't know what to do with the Globes. And I didn't factor into this because I feel like BAFTA is the biggest, like, synced with what ends up winning in the lead performances historically. 15 out of 20 is pretty good in the last 20 years. So that would be Mikey. But then you look now, I know it's supporting, but I mentioned this on my video too because I had forgotten about it. But in 2018, when Regina King won, she didn't have either. So to the point I think Maria was making in the chat earlier about Fernanda Torres, that would be her situation. But the reason she doesn't have either is because she wasn't there. She wasn't nominated, but she still doesn't. So it is possible. It is a very small sample size. And the same thing for like Jamie Lee Curtis, who just won the SAG and then went on to win the Oscar. And that was for Everything Everywhere All at Once. But that was also the biggest movie that year. It won 7 awards, including Best Picture, Director, blah, 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 blah. So she kind of came along with that. So I think Mikey might do that with Honora. I think she might come along with what it wins. Of course, I don't know. But that's what I'm, that's kind of what I'm going. Let me go back to y'all's comments here. Sorry. So I wanted to kind of show you that sheet there. King says he's never changed from Demi. The BAFTAs are very uptight. They're traditional, but they also can be racist. Mikey had the better shot there. Yeah, definitely some weird racist. I'm not going to accuse him of being racist, but there's some weird like racism undertones going on there because I actually predicted Marianne Jean-Baptiste to win there because I'm thinking to myself, they've got to give a black actress an award. I mean, this is crazy. And she was so good in Hard Truths, and it kept getting passed over on most of the circuits in the States. And being that she's British, and being that they love Mike Lee over there, and it had, that film had other nominations, and like, I would have loved to have seen that. I really would. But to your point, I can see what you're saying for sure, because it's like year after year, it's starting to be like, okay, guys, like we got to, and especially when it's somebody like Jean-Baptiste, who obviously is deserving. I was really excited to see David Johnson get the breakthrough performance for Alien Romulus. I freaking loved him in that movie. I did, it's like 2 or 3 months ago, right when the season was kicking off, I did a fun video where I incorporate Oscars and horror every year, where I do the Oscar nominees just as horror movies. And I had David Johnson nominated as actor on that kind of faux awards that I did. I thought he was so good in that movie, so I was happy to see him win. But traditionally speaking, they're not rushing to give minorities awards at the BAFTAs, which is a shame. Let me go back down here and you guys see what you guys are saying down here. So Drew says Demi has that Sandra Bullock trajectory. Let's see here. Yeah, she does. Yeah, you're right. Man, I don't know what to do, man. You look at Frances McDormand, so Frances McDormand swept for 3 billboards, but she did not win the SAG for Nomadland. Do you guys remember who competed with her that year? So I'm trying to remember if there was somebody that was threatening her at the Oscars that year for Nomadland. Who was it? Would it have been Carey Mulligan that year? Did Carey Mulligan win the SAG for Promising Young Woman that year? I don't know if anybody knows, but trying to think. Let's see. Let's see. God, might as well just keep these on, right? So let's see. Easty VR asked if Conclave is number 2 for picture. Yes. I already had Conclave at number 2 for picture, so it definitely is now. I made a joke earlier that it may be from number 2 to like 1.5 right now. Like it's right there. And I also kind of said my thinking when doing predictions that I'm not going to do really till Wednesday or Thursday. But leading up to that, I'm not going to be reactionary about what happened tonight. I'm not going to. Voting was closed. Frankly, my mind should be closed. It can show us that, okay, this guild body, the momentum was for certain films. Somebody brought up a point in the chat earlier, though, that the movies that won, they all had one award. Nobody had multiple wins tonight. So that also doesn't really help us prediction wise, because now we're like, oh, well, they didn't love any one movie more than the others. But the losers in that situation were Honora, because it blanked, right? Unless I'm forgetting something. It blanked, and Wicked blanked. So those two took a bit of a hit. But Honora, I'm not as worried about because of the massive haul that it received with the guilds a couple weeks ago. Let's see. You guys telling me about Carrie Mulligan? Was it Carrie Mulligan that year? Who gave Frances? Let's see. Frances only won BAFTA because a different actress. Oh, okay. Wow, really? I'm trying to remember that. Oh, I think Andra Day was that year too, right? For the Billie Holiday movie, right? Is that the same year? Let's see. Um, yeah, Carlos knows what's up. So Carrie Mulligan won the Globe. Andra Day. Oh, and Andra Day, musical or comedy. Okay. Oh, and Viola Davis. I forgot about. Was that The Woman King? Right? What year was that? The Woman King? God, Jesus. My memory is like I'm doing this live, and you guys are probably like, "What is wrong with this guy?" I told you I was gonna be 50 this year, so it's showing, right? Um, yeah, I don't. Oh, that was the. I know which one you're talking about. That was on here actually, isn't it? That was. Oh no, I didn't put it on the sheet because these are just the winners for the Oscar. Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about though. Two Love with Love or Two Love or something like that was the movie. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, that was a weird season. You're right. Everybody different one. Wow, that's fucking crazy. Um, that's true, Jimmy. That's true. Um, although don't let it get in your head, man. Like that's what I was trying to say. Like this didn't happen when I'm doing my predictions. That's what I have to try to tell myself. Um, unless I think the narrative for Demi is just going to be so powerful among the Academy, like it was for the SAGs. But I don't think that because the SAGs historically go for narrative. The Academy doesn't always do that. The Academy does, frankly, whatever they want. I mean, hell, for all we know, Carla could win. I mean, they do whatever they want there. So they don't play as much into narrative as some of the other bodies do. Definitely not as much as the SAGs do with other actors. So, just take a deep breath. I mean, it's going to be exciting. And I think the hill for Fernanda is like very steep for her to climb. And I'm just being honest. Even though that performance is extremely deserving, she's fighting an uphill battle. I'll just put it that way. And she's going to need some help to get there. She's going to need votes to be taken away from one of those two ladies and go to her, if not both, and go to her. I do think any of the Carla votes, if people broke away from Carla because of the controversy and didn't cast their vote before it, those probably went to Fernanda. At least the international ones probably did. So she probably got a nice push from the controversy. I mean, she deserves it without a controversy, but I'm saying she probably got a push from those. But unless you thought Carla Sofia Gasson was a front runner, the most vote getter, it's not going to be enough, right? I mean, she's going to essentially get what would have been the third or fourth place number of votes, which she already is in third place, in my opinion. So she's going to need some help, and she has to get international. Which, by the way, you guys might think I'm kidding, but as much as Brazil has embraced me on this channel, like I love that movie to begin with, and then that on top of it, if I'm still here, that's like one of the biggest predictions that I'm going to be watching. My predictions, because I'm going to predict I'm still here to win international. It shouldn't, based on what's happened on the tour, especially if you don't consider the controversy. Amelia Press should win. It has multiple international wins, 13 nominations at the Oscars. Jacques Arudard, I don't know a lot about him, but I do know he's extremely respected in the film community. That movie should win. I'm going to pick I'm Still Here based on vibes and my wish for what will happen. It also helps that I really, really don't like Amelia Perez. So that helps too. But that is going to be one of the, which is crazy because I love international cinema, but I just don't remember, even with Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest and those kind of movies recently, like I don't remember ever being like, oh my God, like this movie has to win this. And I'm feeling that way about I'm Still Here in international. It's got to win it, man. It's got to. If it loses international, Fernanda's out on the night. I mean, it would be a mind blowing, shocking, just holy shit moment if she still won after that. I mean, it's already going to be if she wins, but if she wins without the international pull first, I'll faint. I mean, it'll be exciting, but it'll be crazy. So I'm Still Here has to get that international win, and that's one of the biggest categories for me personally that I'm pulling for because that's where I really see that movie has a chance. Of the nominations that it has, that's where it has a chance. Actress is a long shot. Movie is virtually impossible, but international is right there. So I'll be crossing my fingers. I missed that. I missed what that one was about. Oh, you got 6 out of 6? That's not gonna be common, bro. That's gonna be real good. I got 4 out of 6, but I also knew I was gonna miss some. But whatever. I was like, "This is it for Ariana Grande," so I'm gonna predict her, you know? But I missed her, and I missed Ensemble. Those are the 2 I missed. I had Nora winning Ensemble. That's really good. I picked The Fall Guy. A lot of people went with Dune. Dune really should have won that, by the way, but I knew it would go to The Fall Guy, and it did. Uh, but I think you probably came out good there because let me go to the Award Expert app, and then I can share share it with you guys. Hang on, let me share it with you guys real quick. Give me 1 second. Where is it? Here it is. So let's see. Let's look at Community for. So he hasn't updated the results yet, but I got 4 out of 6. So let's see what the community said. So you picked Conclave. I had Conclave in 3. So look at that, dude. You did real good. Only 10% of the community picked Conclave to win. Most people were going with these, which is also what I went with. So you did real good. What other upset did you pick? So you said you picked Timmy's, which I did as well. So you did pretty good there too. 42% went with Timmy. Were there any other big, like, not really. Fall Guy was. Oh, Fall Guy went up to 50%. So I didn't really gain any ground on that one. I thought that was a big prediction. What else? So I picked Ari here. Sue me, guys. I wanted her to have something. Demi Moore. Most people had it. I picked her. Yeah, I mean, narrative. It was the narrative. SAG always awards the narrative. You know, Brendan Fraser, Michelle Yeoh, Chadwick Boseman. I mean, if there's a narrative in the air and SAGs are voting, that's what they're going with. They just feel something about, you know, those performers that they work with and stuff. So let me move this over here so I can see the chat. Let's see. Corey got 3 out of 6. Yeah, the last 3 was fucking wild, bro. That was wild. You'll see when I put my reaction together tomorrow, but I was like, Zoe won or Kieran won. I didn't really care about the TV stuff. I don't follow TV as much as I used to. I knew Shogun was going to win a lot of shit, but other than that, I had no idea. But Kieran won, and then Zoe won, and I'm like, all right, well, we're doing the basic shit here. We're just, you know, this is going to be boring. And then, even though I predicted Timothy, I was still kind of surprised because I thought they were going to go Brody. I thought they were going to follow suit, and that's kind of when it started. And then, by the way, did you guys notice they were like giving shit out like rapid speed at the end for movies? I'm like, oh my god, give me a second, you know. Because it was like Timmy, and then it was like Demi Moore, and it was like, you know, the ensemble was Conclave, and it was just like, oh my god, I didn't have time to breathe. Let's see here. Fences. Oh, for Viola Davis. Was that year? God, why is my memory this bad? Yeah, because Woman King was the year after, right? Because that was with Women Talking. The same year as Women Talking was Woman King. So I think you're right. It may have been Fences. I think you're right. Or Ma Rainey even, because Ma Rainey's Black Bottom was. Damn, Viola Davis is good. She had all those like back to back to back to back, right? Because it was like Woman King, or no, I'm sorry, it was Fences, Ma Rainey, Woman King. Weren't they like back to back to back? Maybe even the same year, maybe. 2 of them may have been in the same year. It was one of those. It may have been Fences, though. You're right. Oh, wait, Carlos says Ma Rainey. So yeah, I thought it might be Ma Rainey too. So yeah, and that's also what. Yeah, okay. So Ma Rainey. Sorry. Viola Davis, Andre Day, Vanessa Kirby. That was for the Netflix movie. She was like the mom that with the troubled pregnancy, right? What was that called? With Shia LaBeouf. She was really fucking good in that. Really good in that. Um, yeah, you guys are all over it. I can't remember anything. If I have it in front of me, I see it, I'll be like, oh yeah, this is. That's why when you guys are saying it, it's all coming back to me. And it was Joanna Scanlon. Was that For Love or To Love or something like that? That was the one I was thinking about too. I think I will just give up for Best Actress. Go with your heart at this point. Are you talking about for Fernanda? Yeah, I mean it is going to be a absolute daunting task for her to win that. And I'm just telling you right now, dude. And I know there's going to be like some. Tell me what it is. The festival in Brazil happens next week with the Oscars, dude. The world will fucking flip out if she wins best. That's how shocking that win would be. Now, I'm saying positively. I'm not saying in a negative way, but it would be. I can't. In fact, as I'm sitting here right now, I don't even know if there would be a more shocking win in Oscars history if she won that, which is kind of crazy that it's still a little the slight possibility for it. Um, I mean, Parasite winning Best Picture was like crazy. I can remember really being like fucking over the moon floored when that happened. But generally speaking, that would go down as one of the more shocking wins in Oscar history if it happened, and I would love it if it did. Um, yeah, you could argue for either. You really could. Let's see. Nicole says, "Is the Brutalist out?" Um, on paper, actually, you can't say that because Corbet won BAFTA director, right? No, it's not out. No, I'll tell you when you'll know it's out is on Oscars night if it loses editing. It's in the race for a few tech categories that it needs to be successful enough to get it over the hump with the bulk of voters. We'll know. And I mentioned this earlier, but if the Brutalist, which is probably honestly nobody really knows because we don't have the Ace Eddies yet, but the Brutalist is at least 2 or 3 for editing. At least. I mean, we don't know. I mean, we really don't know. Conclave had the win for editing at BAFTA, right? So Conclave would be the perceived front runner. Or did Baker? No, Baker didn't win there, I don't think. So it's Baker for Anora, Conclave, and the Brutalist for editing. If the Brutalist wins editing, and then it somehow comes through in either original screenplay or director, of course, both would be crazy. But if it gets editing in one of those other two, then yes, it has a shot. Yep. And not only that, the one that it beats out in the other category is screwed. Because I've always been of a firm belief, and this doesn't always track, and I understand that. Somebody mentioned my buddy Matt in the chat earlier, and he actually told me to stop doing this. But it's just an historical stat that sticks with me. That's kind of been lesser in the last few years. But if a movie has a combo of editing and or screenplay and director, it is a strong contender for Best Picture. Like it tracks a lot of the time. It's broken in the last like 5 years a few times, and that's why people are like, we don't need to do this anymore. But I feel like it is so it helps. I'll put it that way. So if the Brutalist gets editing and then get a little further in the night and it wins screenplay and beats Baker for screenplay, I mean, I'm just giving a hypothetical. Then not only do you need to perk up as a brutal boy or girl, but if you're an Anora fan, you need to go, oh shit, what? Because that's danger zone if you're an Anora fan. And this same thing could be said from a Conclave perspective, except the Brutalist is going to be an original screenplay. So Conclave is kind of safe from that. But then Conclave doesn't have editing. If Brutalist were to win, Conclave wouldn't have editing to go with its adapted. And it doesn't have Berger in the mix. So then you go, well, Conclave lost. Because Conclave only is going to have adapted, best case scenario, out of those major ones I'm speaking of. So you'll know when the editing Oscar this year is going to be huge because we do not have the major precursor, which is the Guild of Editors, until after the Oscars. 90% of the time, whatever wins the ACETI award is your Oscar for Best Editing. And that's why that prediction is typically easier to make. We don't have that this year. So we might think we know who's going to win the ACETI, but we have no fucking idea. So it could be Conclave, The Brutalist, or Nora. One of those three, I think, is pretty safe. So you'll know when X pitcher, fill in the blank, wins editing, where we're heading in terms of what's got a path. Or let's just say the path starts. Now, for a movie like Conclave, it kind of has to start there because it doesn't have a director stop on that tour to the Best Picture. So if Conclave loses editing, which ironically I haven't predicted to win that, which will make the night even more exciting because then it's still in the hunt. But if Conclave loses editing, you can take it out of your Best Picture. It's not going to win Best Picture. That's what I'm saying. If The Brutalist wins it, Brutalist is still in the hunt. If Anora wins it, Anora is still in the hunt. And not only that, the Brutalist and Anora are both also competing in original screenplay and director. They could split that. So then which one of them has two going into Best Picture? That's your Best Picture. The only twist, like plot twist on that, would be if Mikey wins lead actress, which I've got her predicted to do right now. Then that's another major award that can be factored into that equation. Because then basically, if that scenario played out just like I said it, which of course is hypothetical, then you would essentially have a tie between The Brutalist and Anora going into the Best Picture when they open the envelope. If Conclave keeps up with their perceived path right now, and they want editing and adapted, and Baker gets original screenplay and director, they're tied when the envelope comes out for Best Picture. That's it. That's how it's going to play out right there. It's going to be fun to predict the below the lines categories. It's going to be really cool for the substance to win makeup. It's going to be awesome when Wicked gets costumes. Like all that shit's going to be great. Original score is probably going to go to The Brutalist too, or Conclave. That's kind of a toss up right now. But that's a big below the line precursor on the night of. So yes, I think, or I'm sorry, I should say no, Nicole. No, The Brutalist is not out, but it is going to be a nail biter. If you're a Brutalist fan, it's going to be a nail biter because it needs editing early in the night, or Corbet has to win director and screenplay. And based on what we saw at the DGA and the WGA, that frankly shouldn't happen or is not likely to happen. Now, I'm not ruling anything out with the Academy, but it doesn't look good if you're a fan of The Brutalist in that respect. So it's got to get editing. If it gets editing, then you can say, okay, later in the night, it can maybe get one of these two. Because Corbet's been doing pretty good actually on the circuit, director-wise. You got the BAFTA, you got the Globe. Obviously, they're impressed with the minimal budget that he had in this, grandiose film that he made, VistaVision, the whole thing. It really speaks to the Academy and their sensibilities. So I would not say it's out. I would say do not sleep on The Brutalist. People will. They will say it's underperforming. They will say it only got one SAG nomination, which was Brody, who was a gimme. All that shit's true, but do not sleep on The Brutalist. I'm not going to predict it if I'm being honest with you, but at the same time, it's not dead, in my opinion. It's absolutely not dead. Now, if we get an hour into the broadcast on Sunday and it hasn't won anything, then it's dead. But as I'm sitting here right now, I think it still has a chance and it's still in the hunt. It's number 3, but it's still in the hunt. I'm still here. I wish, I think that's what you meant, right? Me too. Me too. I think Zoe winning over and over again makes me think Emilia Perez is likely going to win. You're talking about international. They don't care about the controversy, and you would rather I'm Still Here win. Man, I don't know what to do with this. This is a weird season for predictions. I do not know what to do with this controversy, and none of the previous awards bodies have told me what to do. I don't know what to do. And I want to believe what you're saying, Carlos, but also I have no idea. Like the BAFTAs, we can't really go on. The SAGs, we could maybe go on, right? Because voting just ended for that a few days ago. And a lot of them are obviously here in the States. It's not like there's a ton of international members. So that we could go on, you're right, where we could say, okay, they still gave it to Zoe. But see, I already had Zoe predicted to win supporting actress. But from a larger body of voters where there's a lot of international influence in the voting, then what happens? I don't think you can really categorize the BAFTAs as that because, frankly, they're in the UK. They might not care, about if they like the movie, they like the movie, and obviously they did. And the Globes was before the controversy, and it was really successful at the Globes when it kind of started the season, and then it won the Critics' Choice too. But voting was over before the controversy. I have to remember the timeline of events to not sway if what you're saying is true or not. And unfortunately for us that do predictions and that try to make a name for ourselves doing it, we're not going to know until the Oscars. Like, I just don't know how much the controversy is going to hurt it. If it loses international, it hurt it because you're absolutely 100% correct that it should win. It should be the winner based on everything that's happened thus far for international feature. It should. It has the Best Picture nomination. It has the previous wins I just mentioned. 13 nominations. I mean, come on. It should be the winner. If you were a computer or an AI-based program and you were looking at what was happening and you had all the data in front of you, as an AI, there's no way you wouldn't say that Emilia Perez wins, right? It's the most probable outcome. But I'm going on vibes. I'm predicting I'm still here. I am. If I get that one wrong, I took one for the team, but I am not going to predict that film to beat, frankly, one of the best movies I've seen in probably 5 years, and I'm still here. Such a good film that's based on a true story that serves the narrative of the people that it's representing and the country that it's representing and frankly the tragedy that it's retelling beautifully. And then I found out so much stuff after the film that just made it so much more special and impressed me so much more about how Walter Sellis, the director, went to the home of the main characters in the film and like recreated it basically for the movie. And it's such an authentic piece of filmmaking. It's such a personal piece of filmmaking. And then you have Emilia Perez, and don't even get me started. What the hell was that? I mean, I tell you, I've talked to, friends of mine on this channel before and on my podcast about it. I just have never understood the 13 nominations. I just don't understand it. I really don't. I feel like it's sad, honestly. Let's see. Diane Warren, Oscar. What do you think? Was that her song they did for In Memoriam, by the way? Was that her song, The Journey? I think that was the Diane Warren song. I've only heard it one time. And when they were doing the In Memoriam tonight, I thought that was what that was. And I meant to go back and look, and I forgot to. Drew said he was hoping for Jeremy Strong until the bitter end. That's a great performance, though, man. That also can kind of prove my point, too, where if it was like performance-based, then you really wouldn't know with a lot of these. Because there's a lot of great performances in there. But when you start to factor in momentum of the season and like narratives and all this other shit and age, then it gets away from the performance, I thought Jeremy Strong's kind of weird smirk when Kieran Culkin won was kind of funny, though. The Succession boys. Let's see. I feel like so many people, not me, bring up the narrative as a way to downplay Demi's performance. No, I love her performance. I know you said not me, but yeah, I think people do lean on that. I mean, they lean. In other words, I think a lot of people will say if she didn't have that narrative, would she be this close to winning? And I mean, that might be a fair argument, actually. And I think that sucks because I do think that her performance can stand alone by itself and that it is worthy. But I wonder if the strength of the performance in a genre body horror film that they've literally never recognized anything like it. I mean, we're talking Cronenberg level shit in this movie. This is not like The Sixth Sense or Get Out. This is like the craziest shit they've probably ever seen. Would she be that strong without the narrative to accompany it? And I don't know. I think she should be. I think based on what I saw on the screen and the substance, she should be. But I don't know if the Academy would think like that without the narrative. And I wonder if that's why maybe some of those folks say that. Are you talking about oh yeah, Kathy Bates won for Misery. Or are you talking about for the Matlock show? I didn't really pay attention to the TV stuff. I'm sorry, Jimmy, I didn't. But if you're talking about horror, Kathy Bates won for Misery in I think 1990, which was a great win for a Stephen King adaptation. BAFTA missed the actors who got narrative. Yes, right, right. Bullock, Fraser, Young. Yep. Because BAFTAs don't give a shit. I mean, they do what they want over there. You know what I mean? That's why there's always that British bias too, in a lot of ways. But yeah, you're right. Conclave for yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. I thought about it. I had Wicked at number one forever until like a week ago. I had Wicked at number one. It just felt like a SAG ensemble movie to me. But then I switched to Anora just like a few days ago because I just felt like the wave for Anora was so strong. It was a tidal wave. It was like win after win after win, just kind of piling up on the shore together. But yeah. Let's see. She why did I think she was, Carlos? God bless it. Was she nominated for Woman King anywhere? Not just the Oscars, but anywhere? I thought she was nominated somewhere for that. The hell is wrong with me? Why am I'm misremembering it? I thought she was nominated somewhere for the Woman King, but maybe not. Yeah, Pieces of a Woman was the one with Vanessa Kirby. Are you guys excited for her in Fantastic Four? I don't know what to do with superhero comic book movies, by the way. Like, I'm like out on them. I'm like checked out on superhero MCU shit. As Captain America, I just saw like, oh my god. But I don't know what to do. Like, because then I saw Fantastic Four, the trailer with Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby, and I'm like, this looks fucking great. Like, it looks basically like WandaVision, which was a show I actually really liked. That was the last MCU like show that I watched was WandaVision, and I really liked it. So I don't know what to do. So now am I excited again? Do I go see Fantastic Four? What the hell? I was like, I want to be done with it, but then they'll put something out that kind of intrigues me, and I don't really know what to do. Let's see. AJ says Ma Rainey won makeup and hair, and then Francis still won. Right, right. That could be a plus for Mikey since the substance is going to win makeup. Yeah, I think the makeup correlation definitely happens more often than it doesn't happen, but it's also definitely not a lock if you know what I mean, if it happens. So I just think that definitely makes Demi's path a little wider to get there. But yeah. That's kind of what we're saying. She won the Globe. It wasn't just a nomination; she won there. But yes, it's tough. It's going to be tough. I'm not going to say impossible because I think it's like maybe a 5% chance right now for her. I don't think it's 0. I think it's like maybe 5. Is that a good percentage to have? No, but I also don't think it's impossible. I think that she would have to win on vibes and on word of mouth. Because while Mikey and Demi have been out there battling on the circuit, and one of them has been on stage every week for something. They've been in, red carpets. They've been backstage doing interviews, holding trophies. They've been hugging each other's animals that they bring. I don't know if you saw Demi brought her dog to the Indie Spirits last night. And Fernanda's not there. So that's going to be tough for her. But she's been out there, and Sony Pictures Classics, by the way, do not sleep on them as a studio. Holy shit. I mean, remember when Penelope Cruz got nominated for Parallel Mothers? And everybody's like, what the hell was that? I mean, she's great in it, but, not a lot of people saw that coming. So they have a good campaign typically for these indie performances. It's going to be tough, but I don't think it's impossible, is basically what I'm saying. I do too. I do too. Man, it's. Have you seen her on Twitter, by the way? Like, kind of poking fun at herself. But she'll like retweet somebody that does like articles about how she hasn't won and all this stuff, and she'll retweet it and like tag the Academy in it. It's like gold, absolute gold. But she kind of knows the bit's been going on for too long. We need to give her something. But you know what should happen, King? what should happen is Scorsese or PTA or uh, David Fincher, any director that might be in the Oscars race needs an original song. They should call Diane Warren, because then you get that pairing of, like, PTA and Diane Warren, or Scorsese and Spielberg and Diane Warren, or maybe she has worked with them. I actually don't know if she has, but then maybe you get a little bit closer. You know what I mean? But she's doing these songs that are like in these movies that nobody's even ever. I didn't even know that movie existed until she got nominated for it, and then I went and watched it. It's actually pretty good, honestly. Um, the 688, but I wouldn't have known about it had she not got nominated. Oh, you're going to take the L and predict Fernanda? Wow. Hey, God bless you. I love it. I love it. You know, I don't want to say hope dicting because I hate using that word, but that's what that would be. I mean, you would be following your heart and, like, predicting based on what you want to see. And I did that tonight. So I'm not going to say anything to you. I did that tonight with Ariana Grande and with Timothy. I was 1 for 2. So um, I thought they were in the realm of possibility. Obviously, it was for Timmy because he won, but I thought both of those were in the realm of possibility. But I also knew that I was kind of going against the grain predicting those. Um, when it comes to the Oscars, I try to get as accurate as possible, and I've never beaten. And this is in 20 years. It's like fantasy football for me. It drives me fucking crazy. I've won like 1 championship in fantasy football since like 1998. Okay, so the Oscars, I've never gotten better than like 85% out of the 20 plus categories in over 20 years of doing it. So one of these years, I'm going to break that 90 mark where I only miss like 1 or 2. So I always try to get extremely accurate with my Oscars predictions. And with that being said, I always do kind of pick one that's like, you know, right there. We're like half and half, or maybe an upset. So this year, that's honestly going to be the lead actress race, because I can tell you right now. In fact, we can look at this awards expert app. Let me go back to where I was. Let me go back over here. So let me see if my Oscar predictions are on here. How the hell do I get to it? Oh, I think it's covered up down here. Hang on 1 second. So if we go back to, let me hide this. Whoops. So if we go back to here, and then where am I at? Down here. Academy Awards. So when you look at it, let's see what's happening for actress. So the community over on Award Expert. Look at this, man. Do you think this is reactionary? Do you think that many people have gone in and done that already since the SAGs? Holy hell, guys. Remain calm. So there's no way. What does that say? That says 55. That says 55 to 36. No way. There's no way that Demi has a 20-point lead on Mikey right now. So that may be some from tonight. But I was expecting this to be a little more 50-50. I was going to use it as an example. But anyway, you'll get some of those races. What's another one that's really tight? Let's go back. These are not tight at all. Screenplay might be. Let's see what people are saying in screenplay here. I'll move this over to in case you guys have any comments. Let me go down to the bottom in case you guys have comments about this here. I wish my chat would follow you guys, but I have to like scroll up. I hate that. It's StreamYard, it's not you guys. So Honora is still the front runner, which is what I currently have predicted. This is not my prediction. I don't have Substance at 2. Look, you see that? I have a real, because I was on the Community. Wow, the Community still has the Substance at 2? What? So the Substance, I don't know if you guys are in any of this community, but I'll just tell you, the Substance only has the CCA for original screenplay, right? Or am I forgetting something? So that's not going to carry over to the Oscar. She's at best 3. She's probably more like 4 right now. A Real Pain is overperforming. The negative for A Real Pain is it doesn't have a Best Picture nomination. But I think that mold's going to be broken at some point, in my opinion. So with the substance only having CCA, I'm shocked that the community is putting her second. But look how big the percentage is for Honora. So the way I would have this, where's mine at? Yeah, here's mine. So the way this is how I have it. And this is probably actually Brutalist might be too, but this is basically how it probably is right now. What else? Oh, let's see what they're saying about international guys. Holy shit, I don't even want to click on it. I'm gonna close my eyes. So let's see. So look at this. So this might be some hope dicting. Who said that earlier? Christina? This might be some hope dicting right here. Uh, on paper, it's Amelia Perez. So is this the controversy? Is this the Brazilian influence? Is this the support for I'm Still Here? Is this the word of mouth? I don't know what this is, but I'm not able to prove my point going to a award expert because I was going to show you guys that I'm going out on a limb with I'm Still Here, but apparently a lot of people will be. But it's always something like that for me every year where there's like one or two. Documentary is also a weird one. So I recently put Porcelain Award at number one. Porcelain Award got the win from essentially the Documentary Guild, and No Other Land has been blanking. You see how many people have it winning. It's been blanking all season. It hasn't won anywhere it's been nominated until last night when it won an Indie Spirit Award. But of course, that's after the voting closed. So I'm worried about, do I pick No Other Land? Or do I go out on a limb and pick something like Porcelain War or even Black Box Diaries? Because I think everybody and their mother is going to pick No Other Land because that's almost objectively the best documentary out of this bunch if you've seen them. But it's not winning anything. It doesn't have any strength on the circuit. Like, I don't even think it has distribution yet, which makes it tough as well. All right, let's see. What do you guys say here? You said, I'm so sorry. Let's see here. What do we have? There's another Brazilian movie that won an award in Berlin. Okay. All right. Didn't know that. Demi and Brody have the same path, but nobody is doubting him, even with Timmy winning. Yeah. Let me see. Let me think for a second. So Demi and Brody. Well, Brody has swept up until tonight, whereas Mikey had the BAFTA. So first of all, I'm not doubting Demi. I just think Mikey's a little bit stronger with the BAFTA win. But then I also think it's really 50-50 because even though Mikey has the BAFTA, Demi has the career narrative and overall is probably seen as more deserving based on her career and her longevity. So, I mean, they're really split, to be honest. I am using the best picture probability of a win as my tiebreaker. I'm not saying you have to. That's my personal tiebreaker. If they're tied, I can't pick a tie. So who am I going to pick? I love them both and Torres, but I can only pick one. I can only predict one. You know what I mean? So in that scenario, if I feel like they're tied, which frankly they are right now, I would pick Mikey on the fact that Honora has a higher probability to win Best Picture than the substance. That's it for me. So I'm not, and if you got that impression, I apologize. I'm definitely not doubting Demi Moore. I loved her performance, and I easily see a path for her winning the Oscar. And frankly, I would love it if she did. But from a prediction standpoint, the thing with Brody is that he's been sweeping. He hasn't lost until tonight. Now, if he had lost at BAFTA, then it would have been exactly the same trajectory. And then it would have been a scenario where it would have been a lot closer to 50-50 with Timothy. But that BAFTA win is huge. And the BAFTA win, I'm almost always going to go with when you're talking about lead acting. It doesn't match nearly as often with supporting roles. But when you're talking about lead actress or lead actor, I can't even tell you in confidence if I will ever go against that stat. Like, I just will always pick whoever the BAFTA winner was, unless it's some crazy. In fact, this might be a perfect example for a year where the Demi Moore narrative may be so strong that I will have to change my mind on that. But right now, I'm going with Mikey, but really on the strength of Honora. I mean, honestly, that's the reason. Um, let's see. What he's got? Miss Clara says Viola was nominated for the Woman King in BAFTA, so I know she got a nomination somewhere. I just remembered that, but yeah, because I think she was in the Oscar conversation because of something. So I knew she was in the conversation from having received some kind of precursor. Um, AJ spitting bars out here, dog. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. I mean, I'm of course I don't know. I mean, that's what we all say. You could watch anybody tomorrow or this week or what. We don't know. That's the beauty of this race. And there's a lot of other races that are shaping up like that too, including Best Picture with Conclave now. We don't know, but to AJ's point, yesterday, I thought it was Mikey. So I don't know. I mean, I see it for both. I really do. But I just don't know why I would change based on what happened tonight. That's all I'm saying. Oh, okay. Did they? I didn't know that. I knew about The Apprentice going with Briarcliff. I didn't know. Did that like just happen, Christina? That's awesome. People need to see that documentary. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I mean, it's obviously very like sensitive subject matter, but it's like very educational while also being very like eye opening and like 20 Days of Mariupol. It's very important. It's a very important watch, and that's not always the case with definitely with movies, but with documentaries even. And man, I just don't know if the Academy's going to go for it, and it's been missing. I'm glad to see that it got distribution though. That must have just happened. I didn't even know about that. MSP says Mikey's momentum was for 2 days. How many people? Excuse me. How many people out of the 10K waited until the last day to vote? That's true. And my buddy Luke, who lives in the UK, talked about that on a video he did, I think today. He has an awesome video. You guys should check it out. Luke Airfield, where he broke down the lead actress race, and he actually talked about that. Where if you're looking at the precursor strength of something like the BAFTAs, then Mikey essentially is in the lead. But the timeline for this year is really fucking weird, and that's kind of what you're talking about. And I actually agree with you that does make you take pause, because you wouldn't normally factor something like that in, because you would normally say, oh, this person won the BAFTA, and you don't even really think about voting because it's open for at least another week or 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever it is. It's never like BAFTA voting ends. And that's what happened this year because of all the timelines being shifted around and stuff like that. So you're right. It is definitely something to take into consideration. But and this is only me, I'm not putting words in anybody else's mouth, and I'm definitely not trying to put words in y'all's mouth either. But for me, a lot of it is also rooted in the fact for the strength of the film that Mikey is in. And not only is she in it, she is it. Now, if the substance was overperforming as a film on the same level as Baker and Honora has been the last like 3 weeks, then I would have no fucking idea what to do. But because of the power of the movie as a whole, the production, PGA, DGA, WGA, CCA for film, it won big. I know the Indie Spirits or whatever they are, but they won big there last night. Like there's love for it, and even though it didn't win at the SAGs, it got several nominations, and it's obviously loved in the industry. I'm not saying the substance isn't, but what I do know with 100% certainty as a horror fan my whole life is the Academy almost goes out of their way to have a bias against horror. And this is not just a horror movie. This is a in-your-face, bloodbath, brutal body horror film that I still pinch myself every morning that it got nominated. So you're absolutely 100% correct that the timeline of voting and when the momentum was visible in the public eye to the voters is minimal. Sorry about that. Is minimal. Like you're saying, it's literally 2 days. Um, so would that affect the voters? I mean, I guess the ones that wait till the last minute to vote, maybe. But you're right. A lot of people probably had turned in their ballots. But I'm also going on the assumption that even if they had already turned in their ballots, they probably liked Honora more than the substance. And I know it's a Demi Moore, Mikey Madison race, but again, if there's a tiebreaker, what is it? And for me, it's the strength of the entire production. And I don't see the same love for the substance right now that I see for Honora. So that's where I'm coming from, but that's just my opinion. I mean, I score 75 to 80% every year. So, if I was in college, that's not that great of a score. But, that's kind of where I base my allegiances when it comes to predicting. I mean, I could be wrong, and I mean, Demi Moore could win, and I could look back on it and go, well, yeah, obviously she was going to win. And I would just feel like an idiot. But I don't know where to, I can't predict a tie, like I said. So I don't know where to go to find the tiebreaker. And for me, it's the strength of the picture. And I think if Honora wins Best Picture, which it probably will, unless Conclave gets sneaky, if it wins Best Picture and it wins Best Director, and then probably at least screenplay, if not also editing, but at least screenplay, then how do you not give it an acting award? I mean, of course that could happen, but it would just be weird. It would be strange. Whereas Demi would win with no other haul except for makeup, which of course can happen, but which is more likely if I'm making a prediction. That's all I'm saying. And it's not even what I prefer, it's just which is more likely. I don't know if that answers your question, but you're absolutely right about the timeline. Do the Spirit Awards, Flying Mermaid says, the Spirit Awards tell us anything? You should check on my channel. Actually, what day is it? I think yesterday I put up a video about the Spirit Awards, and I talked a little bit about that. I just did a reaction to the winners and stuff. It would have had voting not been over. The only thing that the indie spirits can really tell us, or that it did tell us, in my opinion, when you're talking about Oscar players, because there was other films that got recognized there, like Dee Dee was a big winner, which was a great comedy from last year. But of Oscar players that got recommended or that got commended last night, what it told us was that there's more love for Honora. That's what it told us. It won picture, it won Baker, Mikey Madison won. So it was an extension of kind of what we already knew for the momentum for Honora. But other than that, it didn't really give us any indication as to what might happen. The indie spirits don't typically factor into the Academy results. But if there's an upset win, or if there's like a really memorable speech or like whatever, and voting is open, then obviously that could have an effect. But that was not the case this year because voting was over. So to answer your question in a long roundabout kind of way, no, it did not really have an effect on the Oscars, except for just kind of adding another layer to the strength that we already thought Honora had in the industry. Let's see. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying too, AJ, is I'm just kind of more basing it on the film. And also, don't forget, I mean, I know it's not an industry body, so I don't put a ton of weight in it. But when you're talking about momentum, like, don't forget that the Palme d'Or is no small thing from the Cannes Film Festival. And the times that winner translates over to success at the Oscars is a pretty high rate too. I don't have the percentage in front of me, but it's no small thing. And from that Palme d'Or win at Cannes, which I think was in May, maybe even before that, and then the critics group started handing out their awards. I mean, it was Honora day after day after day, and Mikey Madison. I mean, like when the Golden Globes hit in early January, that was when, unless I'm misremembering, that was when Demi Moore hit the conversation. And I'm glad she did, and I'm a better movie fan for it, and I love it. I love the competition, of course, but I love her performance. I love that it's a horror movie and all the stuff that goes with it. But pre the Globes, Mikey Madison was like the clear front runner. And then Demi entered the chat, the Golden Globes, and I think it's great. I mean, I love Mikey Madison, but I would much rather have a healthy like competition, and that's kind of what we're in for. I mean, it's like we've been saying, it's a 50-50 split going into Oscar night, which is exciting. Um, man, Jimmy, what do I do, bruh? What do I do, man? Well, I always talk movies, so I'll be doing movie reviews, countdowns, that kind of stuff. And I'll eventually get into the 2025 films and kind of see what we're looking at for next season, performances, that kind of stuff. Excuse me, just give you guys some ideas, but there'll be all kinds of stuff coming, man. I'm actually going to do I'm going to wait till after the Oscars for sure, but I'm actually going to do either a top 10 list or maybe just a video with some of my favorite international movies based on the success of my I'm Still Here and a couple others too that I saw last year. And I just want to start shouting out international films on my channel a little bit more. So I'm going to do probably my favorite international films of 2024. And then, it'll just be movies, man. I'm all movies, all cinema. So there'll be all kinds of shit coming. Don't worry. And if you guys have suggestions, you can always drop them to me too. I'll cover basically anything as long as it's within the realm of my accessibility. Yes. Yes, that is true. Demi and Mikey both had strong momentum in different ways. It could go either way. Absolutely. It is literally a 50-50 race, which I love. Yeah, it's really good, Christina. It's powerful, powerful stuff. It's going to be a photo finish. I agree, Catherine. Oscar voting started right after CCA, DGA, and PGA, which all went to Honora. That's true. So that's the film. But yes, that's kind of what I was saying is that the movie had so much, like, if there were people behind the car pushing it down the hill, they were pushing it, man, and it just took off down that hill. And then they're voting. You know what I mean? So the Mikey performance thing, MSB had a great point earlier that she only had a couple days to really benefit from that BAFTA win, which was huge. And I was like thrilled when she won that because I was thinking in my head it was going to be a Demi sweep, really. But when that happened, and then you had it coupled with everything that happened at the guilds, Honora's momentum was just too hard to deny at that point. And I think that would have gotten to the Oscar voters cumulatively. Now, of course, Demi got a lot of votes too, I'm sure. And we're just going to have to wait to see who got more. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. They're both deserving, in my opinion. I'm never going to talk down to either one of those performances or Fernanda Torres or, frankly, a Revo. I thought they were all great. I think it's a great group of nominees this year. It really is. And any accolades that they have received or they will receive is deserved. Sometimes momentum, timing, and narratives factor in to who takes the lead. And that just is what it is. Now, whether you like that or not, knowing that that's true, Demi Moore definitely has an advantage in that respect because she has an absolute ironclad narrative right now. If anybody's been paying attention to award season that's an Academy voter and has any kind of affiliation with Demi Moore or likes her movies or knows her from the Brat Pack or anything like that, has been attributed to that narrative, I can absolutely see why they would vote for her. Maybe not even seeing the substance, I could see why they would vote for her. Because they might say to themselves, she's 62, I think. She's 62 years old. How many more times is she going to be nominated for lead actress, if ever? We need to vote for her. We need to get this for her. She needs to have this on her mantle for as long as she's here. That's a powerful narrative. That's a powerful thought and message to have. And if it was just performance based, it wouldn't matter, but that's not where we are. And like I said, I've divorced myself from that whole thing because that's just not where we are anymore. MSB says, what is my opinion about the voting ballots that leaked? Are you talking about the anonymous ballots? I have a buddy that, if that's what you're talking about, when you say leaked, I'm not, because they do that knowingly, but they just don't tell you who it is. If you're talking about the anonymous ballots, I have a buddy, Matt, who does that every year for his website, Next Best Picture. And like what he says is what I'll tell you is don't take a lot of stock in it because there's more than 10,000 voters and he's got maybe 30 of them. So, even if all 30 of them said Fernanda Torres, that's 30 people out of 10,000. So, you know, it gives an interesting snapshot into like what people thought when they filled out their ballot, which is I always find intriguing and interesting. Like, oh, it's kind of like when you do a survey for a restaurant or like on an Amazon, you're reading an Amazon review and you hear people's like take on, some weird product and you're like, oh, okay, that's what they thought about that. Okay. Like it's just a weird, sometimes it's exciting and interesting to read people's take and have a perspective that you never thought of when you reviewed the movie or thought about the movie. So I like it for that reason, but I absolutely never, under any circumstance, take it into consideration for my predictions. Never. It's just too small of a sample size. You just can't. So it's interesting, but if to answer your question, I wouldn't accept it as a proper way to gauge who's going to win. And that's what you're asking about too. I'm not. I want to find out if that's what MSB was talking about. But yeah, the anonymous Oscar ballots. There, quite a few of them had Fernanda Torres. Do you think this means anything? And it takes away votes from Demi and benefit Mike. I mean, I think it means something in the fact that it shows that she got votes. That's great. But it can be deceiving because it's such a large. It's like when they do those. What do you call them? Like the political exit polls. It's like when they do those, and people leave the ballots on election day, and they'll ask like 100 people who they voted for or whatever, and then they'll send that to NBC or CNN or whoever, and they'll put up the results of the exit poll, and it's like, yeah, but it was 100 people, and like 100,000 people voted. Like it's just a weird, it gives us an indication, but it's such a small indicator. So again, Matt knows more about award season than I do, and he does those. He collects those from folks that he knows in the industry. And what he always tells me is it's cool to look at, but don't put any stock in it because it's not going to tell you a larger picture. And what ends up winning on Oscars night is a larger picture that we just won't have until that night. It's interesting though to see what people say about that stuff. Drew says if Fernanda actually pulls off a win, what are the chances that I'm Still Here wins Best Picture? Woo, doggy. Now we're talking, brother. Drew has entered the chat. Holy shit. That's going to make me take a sip of beer, brother. Give me a second. I tell you, man, that would be, by the way, I love hanging out with you guys tonight. Thank you so much. I see there's like 50 of you still watching. You guys are awesome. I will tell you that it would be more likely, but that would be fucking crazy. To answer your question, Drew, that is probably like a 0.01% chance of happening that it swept the 3 that it was nominated for. Although I will say, to your point, if it was going to win Best Picture, it would have to win the other 2. So if it wins the other 2, you'll already be floating on a cloud, I'm sure, as a fan of that movie, as would I. But at least you'll still have a chance for Best Picture if it has those 2. At least there's still a glimmer of hope. But that would be the craziest shit I've probably ever seen in my life. But I would love it. I would love it. Let's see. Miss Clara says, I think Mikey and Demi may split the vote and Fernanda sneaks in. I said that would be the way. That would have to be the way. So she would have to get all those votes, or not all, but a lot of those votes from Carla to begin with, right? So when the controversy broke, if the Academy voters wanted to be an ally for the trans community or whatever, and so they wanted to have the allegiance with Carla and with Amelia Perez, but then the controversy came out and they hadn't voted yet, and they said, never mind, we're not going to do that. That's horrible, what she said. Let's vote for the other international actress, which would be Fernanda Torres. So she would get all those, right, or the majority of those. But then she's got to get them from elsewhere, because I don't think Carla was ever ranked higher than maybe 3rd, maybe at best. Cynthia Erivo maybe even been a little bit higher. So she's only going to get, in other words, she's only going to get 3rd place worth of the votes if we're saying Carla was in 3rd, and then plus whatever she had. Now, with it getting the Best Picture nomination, they obviously had strong support for the movie. It's funny that happened too, because I was predicting, or not predicting, but I had it like 11 or 12, like right outside the nominations. All We Imagine Is Light, the Indian film, as that second international, because the Oscars has been really consistent about putting two internationals in there. You know, um, it's kind of showing up there, like, oh, okay, they did that again. Last year it was Zone of Interest and Anatomy of a Fall, right? So they'll do that. So I was like, maybe there'll be a second international, and I thought All We Imagine Is Light would maybe get that boost because it didn't get submitted for international film. So maybe the Academy, with Payal Kapadia being adored as a director, which by the way is a phenomenal movie if you hasn't got. And I was talking about doing an international video on my channel. That one will be mentioned. Spoiler alert! It's a great film, and I thought that might sneak in, but instead it was I'm Still Here, which I'm also just over the moon about. But it does show that there was something going on with the short list and the long list, and when they decided to come up with the nominees, that it had the support to get it over the top there. Now, was it number 10? Probably. Maybe Nickel Boys, 9 or 10 right there, because Nickel Boys only had adapted screenplay, right? So that was actually, frankly, a little more surprising, honestly, that Nickel Boys got in, honestly, with just the lone adapted screenplay. I was glad it did, but I thought it would be like a Real Pain or even September 5, which I'm glad that didn't get in. But yeah, I didn't expect Nickel Boys or I'm Still Here. I missed both of those when I did my predictions, and I'm glad I did because I love both those movies. But yeah, it would that would be the path, though. To your point, Miss Clara, if that doesn't happen, she's not. In other words, I don't think Fernanda can win with just her support that she would have had anyway. If that makes sense, which would be basically the international vote. It's heavily international, especially compared to previous years, but I don't think it's as heavy international where if that was all she got, she would win. So she's got to bring it from Mikey and Demi. They have to split, like you said. It's kind of interesting that people count the can win only for Honora, but it's irrelevant for the substance script. I'm not miscounting it. I just didn't remember that. So it won screenplay there. Why did I remember that? But okay. That's big for Coralie too, but also it wasn't eligible at WGA, was it? I think it was one of the ones that was ineligible at the WGA, which would have been big for it to show up there too. They need to figure that whole thing out with the WGA. Nobody's eligible. It's like the Garfield script versus, one Oscar contender. Who's going to win? Yeah, I just didn't remember Coralie winning at Cannes, but now that you say it, it's kind of bringing back memories. But I do know that she's a French filmmaker too, so it's not like overly shocking that it performed well there. But I think she's French. By the way, go see her first film, Revenge, if you haven't, from 2017. I might like that better than The Substance. Actually, it's a really fucking good movie. But she's a great filmmaker, wonderful vision. Yeah, I just didn't remember that, King, but that's a good point. I just wish that this is the gentlest way I can put this. And I'll just leave it at this because like I said, I've been following the Oscars for a long time. The Substance is too fucked up for the Academy. We do not live in an era where they will reward the Substance accordingly. I'm just telling you. Now, it's going to happen one day, and I'm going to be wrong. It's going to happen where a slasher or a body horror film like this or something really out there from a genre standpoint is going to win. Will it be in my lifetime? I honestly don't think so. I hope so because I would love to see it. But that's honestly the main thing when it comes to the Oscars, at least. That's the main thing that gives me pause on The Substance. Is because I think, and I know you've heard people say this, but I think the nomination is the win for a movie like that because that was just so unbelievable and exciting that it got there and had enough support to get into the nominations. But I'm just telling you, they will never award a film like that in my lifetime for any top of the line category, which screenplay would factor into that too. Now that's just my opinion, but I'm basing that on what I've seen and how my heart's been broken literally I mean, we're talking about performances. I mean, Jesus, how many horror performances in just the last 10 years could have been not only nominated, but won Academy Awards? I mean, Mia Goth, Lupita Nyong'o, Emily Blunt in A Quiet Place, uh, Toni Collette in Hereditary. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, Florence Pugh in Midsummer. I mean, it's like, what are we doing? I mean, these performances, yeah, they're in genre horror films, but Jesus, I mean, these ladies are acting circles around some of these people that get nominated. So, because of that bias, is where I have pause with The Substance. It's not because I didn't like it or because I don't think it's worthy. I just know how the Academy has operated in the past. That's really what it comes down to for me. Um, the split votes. Your opinion is that it is more likely Mikey and Torres split. They're both drama performances than Demi. I think Demi has a singular performance. Now that's true. That's 100% true. She's definitely the standout performance-wise, like genre-wise in the whole award show, honestly, but definitely in the category. So that's true, and that's actually a good point. But I think the international factor is what I was talking about more than anything else. And I think the international factor, although Coralie is a international filmmaker, so that probably helps in some regard. So she maybe did get some of those, to your point. But I think most of those international votes probably went to Fernanda if they came away from Carla. I mean, and that would really be the boost for Fernanda. And I also think that I'm Still Here as a film, I mean, hit literally while voting was open, like was one of the greatest hits. It was like number one on the iTunes chart. You know what I mean? If you're tracking it as a pop song, right at the right time. And I think everybody saw it because it got nominated for Best Picture, which was a shock. Myself and anybody that covers the Oscars, when we did our reaction videos, I literally was speechless. I didn't even say anything on my reaction video when the words, I couldn't even believe I read it. That's how shocked I was. It took me like 30 seconds to even realize it got nominated. And I was reading it in front of me. It was a very, very surprising, positively, but it was a surprising nomination. So I think everybody on the Academy was equally surprised, and they went to see it because I can tell you right now, a lot of them had not seen it before voting opened. So, and I know here in my local city, in the state where I live, it opened like the week before voting opened. Now I know the Academy's watching it on the portal most likely, but I mean, it's out there at the right time, I think. So, look, I love I'm Still Here, but I think it's a long shot for that movie, with the exception of maybe international feature. That's what I'm really crossing my fingers for that movie. But when it comes to actors, to your point, I think it's going to really come down to Demi or Mikey. I mean, it's 50-50. It's 50-50. Miss Clara agrees with you, and I think it was a great point as well. Yeah, the anonymous votes. Yeah, that's what we talked about. Yeah, no problem. Matt said last year Lily had way more anonymous ballots over Emma, but we all saw the outcome. You mean that Emma won? Yeah, I predicted Emma win there too, but I've gotten better about not being reactionary. And also, that was a bummer for me because I wanted Lily to win that. I love Emma Stone. I mean, come on. I mean, she's, a queen among us. But I was just not as high on Poor Things as like La La Land and some other stuff that she was in the mix for. So I love Yorgos and I liked it. I mean, I like especially like the cinematography and stuff, but I just didn't connect with Poor Things quite as much. Lily Gladstone had a performance actually very similar to Fernanda Torres this year for me in Killers of the Flower Moon, where she was so impactful in that movie that I was craving her presence on screen. Like, I felt the emotion in her character. And I thought between the two of them, even though Emma Stone is a brilliant performer, that was my vote. I think also we had reverse category fraud last year because Lily Gladstone was a supporting performer in that movie. She was in lead. So that could be argued too, where how far would she have gone in the season had she been in supporting? Of course, we'll never know. But yeah, I was fighting against that. AJ, I was fighting against my favorite of the two and the recency reactionary bias too of the SAG win. But I don't remember what Matt picked, but he probably picked Emma Stone too. But that was what I ended up going with because I thought it made more sense. And again, the BAFTA win, right? I mean, I'm not trying to be a simple guy or whatever, but I am. I mean, if you win the BAFTA, you're good with me when it comes to predictions. That's not going to pan out every single year, but I will get more years right than I get wrong. Let's put it that way. Like I said, in the last decade, which is the only thing I ran for my spreadsheet, 8 out of 10 times the BAFTA winner won the Oscar. And it was 9 out of 10 times for actor, the male. So, I mean, you know, Brody won the BAFTA. I don't care what Timmy does. Brody won the BAFTA. So who's going to win the Oscar? If you're asking me, it's going to be Brody. Mikey Madison won the BAFTA. All right. Now, the difference there is Demi's narrative is like superhuman, okay, right now. But Honora is stronger. That's why they're 50-50. So instead of me going, Mikey won the BAFTA, that's it. I'm going, Mikey won the BAFTA, but, and I have to think about what the postscript there is. And for me, it's like Demi's narrative versus the strength of Honora. That's kind of like what it is like, which is stronger? And to be honest with you, I don't know. When I throw my predictions up, I'm going to have one of them. I'll tell you that much. As I'm sitting here, it's Mikey. But, I mean, who the hell knows when I wake up tomorrow what I'll do. So, thank you so much for being thorough and going back to the previous comments. Oh, man, yeah, dude, no problem. You guys are the best for being here. What are you kidding me? I do have to wrap it up. So I can't believe I'm going on 3 hours, though. Let me go through these last few here. Black Box Diary. It is powerful, too. That one's streaming now. Is it, Cammy, is it Max or Showtime or something? I saw that it was streaming. I had a screener for it like a couple months ago, and I really liked it. Hard to watch at times and powerful. Also kind of makes you pissed at the legal system, but I kind of already was, so that's fine. But yeah, it's a great documentary. I think that one's probably like 3 right now. I think it's No Other Land and Porcelain War are battling. If I was telling you guys right now what to pick in your Oscars pool, I would tell you to pick Porcelain War, which would be a bit of a head scratcher because nobody else is. But Porcelain War is the only documentary that has a win on the circuit of the ones nominated. The only one, because Superman's not nominated. Will and Harper's not nominated. So the only among the nominees, Oscar nominees, that has a win is Porcelain War. So I'm telling you right now, that's my pick, most likely. As I'm sitting here right now, I haven't updated my predictions. There's still No Other Land, but I've been thinking through it. No Other Land is just like I'm Still Here for international, where No Other Land would be a vibe pick for documentary for me. Because frankly, it should win. You know, just like I'm Still Here should win international, especially with All We Imagine Is Light not being there. But what's the Academy going to do? You know, it's 10,000 old dudes. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm an old dude too, but I don't know. I mean, it's, and then what if Flow comes out of nowhere for international? We haven't talked about that. I mean, Flow's been sneaky. It's been real sneaky this award season too. So there's some categories that I really don't know what I'm going to do, and I'm probably going to get more wrong this year than I want to because I'm feeling some kind of way about some of these picks, and I feel like I need to stick to the data, which if I was doing that, I would go with Porcelain War for documentary. But to Cammy's point, Black Box Diaries, I think is streaming on Max right now. I don't know if Cammy was able to confirm that, but it is streaming somewhere. And if you get a chance to see it before the Oscars, you should, because it's a really powerful documentary. The only time I read the anonymous ballots were Everything Everywhere, and they made me think Elvis and Tar were much stronger than they were. Man, honestly, I'm still surprised Cate Blanchett lost that year. I mean, I really am. I mean, I know Everything Everywhere was surging, and I preferred Michelle Yeoh that year, frankly, but I remember being surprised at the same time. Like, I was just like, I mean, Cate Blanchett's one of the best alive, and she was on a tear, so I was just surprised. Was she? I'm just reading that, Drew. What would be the stipulation there? I know she was, or I suspected that she was ineligible at WGA, but then again, so is fucking everybody for some reason. I don't know. Can anybody confirm that? I didn't know she was ineligible there. She didn't get in there, or did she? Let me look up. Jesus, I can't. My memory is like, let's see, DGA nominees. I know James Mangold got in, which I predicted, but nobody. So Yeah, you're right. So it was Baker, Ayoudard, Berger, Courbet, and Mangold. I wonder if this will tell me if I'm gonna charge this other earbud because it just died. I wonder if this will tell me if Coralie was ineligible on this Wikipedia page because I didn't know that. But Porcelain War won there for DGA for documentary. That was the one I was talking about. I'll have to get back to you on that, Drew, because it's not showing me on this page here that I'm looking at. And that's actually the first time I'd even heard that. I didn't realize that. I knew it was ineligible for WGA, but I didn't know about DGA. Could The Brutalist win picture with a package of cinematography, score, actor, and director without editing? It doesn't have any editing wins, so it probably won't win that category. Yeah, it's probably in third for that category, although I do think it's possible that it could win. We don't have the Ace Eddie yet, don't forget. That's the only thing I'm kind of holding on to is what if the Eddie goes to The Brutalist? You know, we won't know that until it's too late, but that could happen. I'm gonna say no. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm gonna say yes, it could happen, but I'm gonna say I would not say it's gonna happen. Just because I have a very strict path that I follow that's gone pretty well for me, and it always includes editing in some way. So, with your package that you have there for The Brutalist, it's gonna get actor. Actors, like, literally 99.99999% guaranteed for Brody. So it's gonna get actor. Director's actually in the mix too, because Corbett kinda came to life a little bit at the BAFTAs with that. I think the DGA is stronger, but it did show at least a mutual support for Corbet in his film too. So with your package right there, I think, and actually score is really a strong possibility too. But I think it needs editing or screenplay. I really do. And also with cinematography, by the way, what a sad state of affairs that Nickel Boys is not there. And I know if you watch my videos, you've heard me say that, but man, what an absolute debacle that Nickel Boys is not in the cinematography discussion. Holy shit. By the way, that won at the Spirit Awards last night for cinematography, which was great. Yeah, cinematography is a big one. I just think that, I mean, that probably is The Brutalist. The Brutalist is probably going to win cinematography because it's the best picture nominee. I mean, I'm not ready to make that prediction right this second, but it's a strong contender for that category. And I also think it's a really strong contender for score. That's probably the package that you have in front of me there for The Brutalist. Probably that's probably what I'll predict for The Brutalist to win. Director, director, maybe not. It might be Baker, but otherwise, and I could see myself going Corbet, but right now I've got Baker in my head. But to answer your question, it is possible, especially in the last 5 years or so. There's like 3 out of the last 5 years that editing status broken. So I understand that it's not as consistent as it used to be, but I just have a hard time getting away from the path kind of starting with editing, or at least like making it a lot more feasible for the pitcher that may go the distance. So it's possible, but I wouldn't predict it personally, but it is possible. Let's see. It wasn't very not Academy like giving Emma Stone 2 Oscars at such a young age in less than 10 years. Was that because they didn't like the newcomer Lily to win, or her performance was that superior? Are you talking about Emma Stone's? I mean, if you're asking me my opinion, no, I think Lily's was more superior. I said that a minute ago. That was my favorite performance of the nominees that year. I do think Lily, or I should say Apple, I guess, because they distributed the film and promoted it. I think they may have shortchanged Lily by putting her in lead when she, frankly, would have probably won the supporting actress award that year. I mean, maybe not because it was what was the holdovers actress that swept? Oh god, what was her name? Why can't I? It's too late. I can't remember anything. I'm so sorry. The lady from the holdovers that swept supporting actress. Somebody give me her name in the chat. Was it what was her name? But anyway, Lily was a supporting performance that was campaigned as lead in that movie. So that got her off to a she was behind from the beginning. I think that Emma Stone winning, she had the BAFTA. I mean, I know you guys are probably getting tired of hearing me say that, but if you have the BAFTA, the crossover to the Academy is unbelievably matched. Like, it's crazy how often it matches up. So she was just a stronger resume on the award circuit during award season than Lily Gladstone was. She just had the SAG, which was great support among her peers, but they also always award the narrative first. And Lily Gladstone had the narrative of being the first Indigenous person to be nominated for an Academy Award. And she was the first to win the SAG. So that was a narrative that there was no way they were going to pass up. And, frankly, I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad she won that. But I think that was why she won that. I think that Emma Stone was at least as far as the industry was concerned last year, was the clear-cut winner for the Oscar. And that's why I predicted her when it came around to predict the Oscars, even though Lily won the SAG, because I knew that was a narrative-based win, that they wanted to lift up that marginalized community that was finally, winning awards like that. But I knew the Academy was going to stick with what the guilds and the industry had been doing to that point. And the BAFTA one was huge for Emma Stone. Now, if Lily Gladstone had won BAFTA, she would have been the best actress last year. I believe that, but that didn't happen. Divine Joy Randolph. Oh, what was I was going to say Danielle Brooks, but that was The Color Purple. Jesus. All right, I'm going to wrap up the stream. You guys are the best. Let me see. Are there any last ones here? Thank you for the Divine Joy Randolph. Oh my God. Great live. Thank you all. Thank you, Maria. You're the best. I appreciate it. I appreciate that super chat earlier. Guys, Maria gave me my second ever super chat on this YouTube channel. And the first time was I was going to say my mom, but that wouldn't be true. It was my friend Dan. So really my first official one. So thank you so much to her. You guys are the best. Now look, just to let you know, tomorrow when I get home from work, I'm going to edit my reaction to the SAG Awards and I'll throw that up tomorrow afternoon. So you guys will see. I mean, my only major freak out, if you will, was when Timmy won. The rest of them were kind of like, oh, okay. And then I was kind of like, oh my God, Conclave won. Of all the movies that could have won Ensemble as an Anora fan, it was Conclave. What are we doing? Thanks a lot, SAG. But otherwise, it was pretty muted. But I'll put that out, though. It'll probably be 15, 20 minutes after I clip it all together. And then all kinds of shit this week for Oscars week. Fuji's coming back. We actually already recorded it, but we're going to do our final round of Oscar swaps. So we're going to swap out nominees and put in our picks. And he had some doozies on this one. He went fucking AWOL. I was trying to reel him in, but he did his thing. I think that'll be out Wednesday, I think. And then I ranked them at the directors. So you guys know I rank all the performances and Best Picture, and I did all that. So the only one I have left is the director nominees. So I rank those. My personal rankings 5-1. So that'll be out. And then Thursday will be my final predictions video. I plan to get it out Thursday. So I'll release that whenever I get it edited on Thursday. And that's what I'm going to roll with. And then when it comes to Oscars Sunday, I'll probably do a live stream like this after the broadcast. So I'll record it when I'm watching it, but then I'll come on with you guys just like I did tonight for a couple hours and just either sit there in tears or have a couple beers, or I don't know what we're going to fucking do, guys. But, it's an exciting year and I'm excited to see how it turns out. And, of the ones nominated, with the exception of Dune 2, which I don't think has a chance to win anything except a couple techs, Anora is that's my horse in the race. And I was happy to see what happened the last couple of weeks with it, because I feel like that makes it really, really strong on Oscars night. With that being said, there's so many good movies and performances in the mix this year. I love Conclave. I love The Substance. I love Wicked. The Brutalist I wasn't as high on as a lot of people that I know in the community, but I did like it. And I do think it's a monumental achievement. So I would also be fine with that winning awards. So there's a lot of movies in the mix this year that are deserving. I'm Still Here is phenomenal. So let's celebrate the movies. Let's be kind to each other. The way I see it, this is going to sound some kind of way, but the way I see it, as long as Amelia Perez doesn't win, we all win. Okay. That's what I'll just tell you. We are safe, guys. At least I think we're safe. I mean, holy hell, did we dodge a bullet on that one? It would have been rough for me personally. I don't know, maybe you guys don't feel that way, but I was just like, please God, we got to figure this out. So it looks like we're staying away from the Amelia Perez love of the 13 nominations going into Oscars night. But I'm excited. So I'll be back. Check the channel tomorrow afternoon. I'll have some videos out for you guys, and then I'll let everybody know about the live stream after the Oscars too. So I'm looking forward to it. And check out the I just did like a tribute video for the Best Picture nominees. Do I have a AJ? I don't know if AJ's still in the chat. He probably has access to it. Let me pull up my YouTube real quick, and I'll just share the link real quick if anybody's still here, because I'm proud of that thing, man. I was like, I couldn't sleep the other night, as you guys can obviously tell. And I'm like out of my mind out here, and I'm like just doing this stupid thing for my daughter, and I like started playing with this edit, and then I just made it. It took me like 2 hours, and I made it. And I'll post it in the chat for you guys if you want to check it out. But it's just like a tribute video to the 10 nominated films. So check that out for me. Put a thumbs up on it if you want to. Share it if you want to. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate all of you so much. And thank you for being here. Let's celebrate the movies together. I'll see you guys soon on the channel. I'll keep you guys updated. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time in the garage. You know I'm going to say that. I'll see you soon.